welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. We are at the end of the book that we've been reading, and some people are saying this is perhaps the best book ever written. And we're at the end of this book. We have been reviewing the whole thing and what we've learnt in the course of this amazing book. We've been reading it, and we've been learning how to read in a new way without interpretation. We've been learning why we're reading these specific books. Out of the millions and millions of books out there, why are there only a handful of books that are really worth reading? Well, let's answer that quickly. They are intelligible, complete, therefore you don't have to add your own beliefs in there. They reflect and describe the logos, which is the intelligible nature of reality, and the self, that is the cause of the unfolding of reality in each moment, and it's what we are seeking to follow. Socrates talks about following the logos in our activity and thinking and contemplation to return to the sacred source, the self-logos. And therefore, we can learn about ourselves, the nature of humanity, our purpose here, how to remove our problems, how to reach excellence, what happens when we die, how we can live well so we can die in a good way. All of these things, you need to be reading about the logos to understand it, because logos is the name for that intelligibility. Which means you need an author who has themselves mastered the logos. The power and the activity of the logos is called the dialectic. It's the skill of thinking. It's the art we're here to master. The dialectic is not only applied to reading, but what we've been discovering is that very same dialectic that we are learning how to understand and use in reading an intelligible text without interpretation, that same activity is applied to our problems to remove the source of our problems, freeing ourselves from them. In order to do that, you need some sort of guidance from someone who knows all about you, your purpose, your problems, your history. That's your dream maker. The use of the dialectic is also used to understand the messages you're getting from your dreams. And as we're saying, how are we going to learn about this unless someone has written these sort of books? So the fourth application of the dialectic we're discovering is writing your own dialogues. Talking about what you've understood about that process yourself. So, interesting that there are 4 applications of the dialectic, and the dialectic itself has 4 parts. Isn't that interesting? So that's why we read these specific books. The books from, well, so far we've got a very short list, but including you, if you take this particular book's challenge and write a sequel to this book, then you will be able to practice all 4 of those things, because it seems that this book is inviting us to participate in that very meaning of life. By writing a sequel to this book, you would have to use the understanding of the dialectic from this book, use the material from this book to write the sequel. That sequel has to be, what we've discovered in this book is you can't do one of those things without the others. You can't reach an understanding of the true nature of self and reality, reach your highest excellence, without at the same time addressing your problems. Likewise, if you want to overcome the problems and the negative states of mind you experience in your life, you can't do that without pursuing that high goal in order to surface your blocks and problems. Because blocks and problems are only blocks and problems in that they block you from following and mastering the logos. And by the way, you can't do either of those to completion without dream analysis. You get the guidance and the specific material and information that you are missing, because that's the catch-22 of the human condition. Our problems, our pathologos, are problems because they block the logos, and the participation in the logos, the dialectic. And it's that very dialectic that solves our problems. So it's a catch-22. You need dreams. Now, ideally, you need a dialectician. So you need friends to talk to about those activities and to practice being a dialectician and asking the questions, guiding the reflection, and understanding skillfully in a beneficial way to help your friend or each other overcome those problems. So you have to be seeking to master the logos, the dialectic, in reading. That is necessary to surface your problems, which you have to be addressing to reach your highest excellence and mastery. You have to be doing dream analysis along the way. And finally, sharing it. You have to be testing it and putting it into action by creating works of logos or works of intelligibility yourself. And it's of course that those texts that we can read or others can read and benefit from as well. So you benefit and others benefit. Now what we've seen in the text is Socrates describes those things or uses those things to describe the new way of being for humanity. Through the text, we've been discovering that in our pursuit of those four things, we go through interpretation. So our goal is to follow the logos, be rational, intelligible, dialecticians ourselves. But the way our false beliefs fight back is through interpretation. That is, projecting things that are not there and having blind spots about what is. We have understood that there are fundamentally 5 kinds of interpretations that we go through along the way. So we have to recognize when we reject the truth, or only take a little bit of the truth, or take the truth and try and hold on to what's false at the same time. These are the kinds of interpretation that we go through in our development, through the stages of our soul's development that we are learning about and using those 4 activities to facilitate. Socrates says, well, the non-interpretive way of being, what we want to reach, is that new class of being of the new philosophers. You are a living exemplar of the tradition. You practice what you've been reading. You share this with your friends. You have dialogues with others, exploring the nature of justice and truth. And you can contribute or add to the tradition by writing your own dialogues. And that seems to be the conclusion of the book. This banger of a book. Therefore, what we're seeing is, after learning enough to understand all this, to understand our purpose, understand these stages of development, the stages of development of the self logos in our return to the self, and the development of mastery of understanding, third hypothesis, mind, second, and self. We've understood that there is a similar structure in the classes of pathologos. So if that's the logos, what we seek to master in understanding, dianoia, and the dialectic, the pathologos is the false image of the self that manifests as our false beliefs about self and reality, that functions through our interpretation without seeing, and the cause of all human problems, injustice. And when people who are ruled by their pathologos gain positions of power, capitalists, conservatives, and clergy, religion, conservatism, to venerations of the pathologos, then death and destruction sweep across the land, and ultimately they seek Armageddon, the destruction of all of humanity, because they don't know how to actually solve problems. All they can do is hurt people. Sadism. So when you are following belief, you're blocked from understanding, so you can't actually solve problems and help people. When you're in belief, you're blocked from the state of mind of knowing. So there's no actual feeling state or peak state of mind or feeling state that you can associate with knowing. So what do believers do? They take what they can do, can't help, but they can hurt people, and they take that feeling state associated with inflicting suffering, punishment, misery. They take that as their surrogate state of mind for knowing. So that's why we ask the question, hey, for these capitalists, for these religious people, for these conservatives, why is cruelty the point? Sadism. So that's the state of mind that underlies all of the functioning of human problems. And behind that state of mind is a block in your cognitive development. You can't move on to understanding because you're too fervently loyal to your belief. And behind that belief is a false image of the self. What we've discovered is it's a primitive function because it may have served an evolutionary purpose back before we had the capacity for language and self-reflection. Those who were blindly loyal to their cave tribe as cavemans and afraid of everything different or outside of the cave may have not been eaten by saber-toothed tigers, and therefore their lineage evolved, which is fascinating because we've discovered that's the same thing as the Abrahamic traditions. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, the three big religions are ruling the world currently, have at their cause, their root, the root analogy of Abraham, also killing people who are different. So Abraham was instructed to kill his son by God, and his job was to blindly obey, blindly, ignorantly following the instructions of whoever was telling him they spoke for God, the tribe leader. And those people became the chosen tribe, the followers of Abraham, the children of Abraham. And from that's why we call those three religions the Abrahamic traditions, because they all have this root analogy at their core. We also see it with conservatism. The most disgusting, unjust person possible, Donald Trump. The MAGA are blindly loyal to him. Netanyahu, same thing. The most disgustingly sadistic, cruel, genocidal, abusive, torturing small children on Epstein Island in order to get political leverage over the Americans, all that sort of stuff. The most disgusting, unjust person. Many people follow him, blindly loyal to his injustice. Just as all humans, so what they are doing is leveraging that pathologos, the root nature of human problems. We all therefore have to do a reflection on our own primitive, caveman-like, functioning as a savage loyalty and our savage reaction to other human beings that are different from our family, tribe, and clan. So primitive, caveman, savage in our inhumanity towards ourselves and each other, keeping us stuck in a script, so making us an NPC, non-player character in life, because we're stuck in a script that leads to our fate, and only leaving us with a shallow amount of self-reflection, a shallow amount of language, like a zombie does. Zombie has enough language to say brains, and enough self-reflection to wander around and seek brains, and that's the human condition. We all have that, that's why we're here. Our job, therefore, is to read Apollo. We can personify the idea of reading with Apollo. Read these specific intelligible texts by Dr. Pierre Grimes, the Balboa translation of Plato, describing the work, the dialogues of Socrates, and the Balboa translations of Homer. Balboa translations because they are translations without interpretation. So to be reading to discover all this, so read this book. This book is the best, it seems. Learn about these principles and employ them. In philosophical midwifery, employ that same dialectic to reflect on and challenge your own unsuspected loyalty that keeps you as a primitive, savage NPC zombie. Understand the messages and communication from your dream maker. And of course, share this with others. So, the very nature of human problems within our soul, with our pathologos, understood within the history of evolution, with our species, understood with cultures, as they react negatively to people who challenge the cultural way of being. People challenged Socrates, murdered Socrates for sharing an understanding that benefits everyone. Everyone wins, everyone is benefited, but instead of reflecting and changing our mind, human beings would rather be cruel and sadistic because of it's easier, it's comfortable, and they think they need it. So our problems are solutions we still think we need when we don't. Problems are solutions that no longer apply. Evolutionarily speaking, with the pathologos and ourselves, holding on to our false beliefs and images of ourselves because we think we're not good enough without it. Taking the blame for our parental figures who treated us in an unjust way during our development, imitating their own parents who did it to them, imitating their own parents who did it to them, imitating Abraham who did it to his family, imitating their political leaders who did it to their people, all the way back to cavemen. So as above, so below. So the simple understanding of a false image of the self, manifesting as negative states of mind within that are acceptable within a clan tribe, manifesting from that state of mind our functioning through interpretation to justify cruelty and injustice and sadism. That's the nature of human problems individually, within our relationships, within our culture, within history, within evolution, and within the exemplification of those things within politics as the conservative or right-wing movement, religion itself, opposed to spirituality through understanding, which is our actual purpose. And of course, billionaires in capitalism who justify their extreme injustice and wealth inequality because they were born into a family who are better because they're billionaires or whatever. So, all of this we've learned from the book. But what we've also learned from the book is understanding the truth ain't enough. Ain't enough. Because the human condition, or the human purpose to master the dialectic, has fundamentally, well, four activities you're supposed to use with it, but two primary expressions. You use the dialectic to find the truth about the self logos, following the logos, and removing what's false, perfection and purification. So understanding the truth would be the perfection. But the human condition is a violent, savage, NPC-like primitive opposition to truth. We all have it. It's the human condition. We oppose truth, violently, savagely. We think we know better. Why should I read this stuff? I already know what the self is. Why should I go on the quest to discover the meaning of life? I know what it is. It's whatever my parents told me. We think we know better. And we're afraid. We're afraid of our true freedom of self. We're afraid of higher states of mind, and we're afraid of learning and developing a new understanding. Therefore, the truth ain't enough. And that's the end of the book. All of those things that we've just reviewed quickly right now, we've come to learn from the book, and Jesus has come to learn it, not through a speech or a monologue or being told, through question and guided question and answers from someone who has that knowledge, Socrates, someone who has that art of the dialectic. So step by step, coming to a conclusion at each point. So nothing like a debate dweeb.
Debate weirdo.
Where you rattle off 85 lies in a row to justify the false belief you walked in with. Politicians do that, religious people do that, capitalists do that. And of course, the propaganda arms for those people do that, mainstream media. None of that shit. You have to come to a conclusion together at each step. So you walk step by step together, honestly, no shame, no blame, no punishment, because we want to create the ideal states of mind for self-reflection. Therefore, we can move step by step to a conclusion we can hold on to, and a conclusion we can use. It's that lack of dialectic in our culture, which is that is the reason why we haven't changed as a culture, why we never solve problems. People can say the absolute truth, and then someone can turn around and say, well, that's just your opinion. I vote for Trump. Well, my opinion is this, actually. Or we're going to mock you, actually. Or if you don't like America, you can get out. Or if you speak like that, we're justified in bombing you. So those, therefore, are the ways that we ignore, mock, threaten, exile, and kill the classes of negative human reactions towards truth that happen as a result of our pathologos loyalty and ignorance that we take for truth, and our fear of the logos that is the nature of human problems. So truth ain't enough. We've been, the reason why we're not able to solve problems is because we haven't been learning to go through those step-by-step conclusions together to truth that we can conclude upon and then use. Because anything you can dismiss because, well, you went through it 10 steps, but I disagree with step 4, so I don't agree with your conclusion. Or even if I did follow your conclusion, that's just your opinion, bro. Or maybe that's what you think, but I believe something different. The classes of interpretation that we have. But we do have enough understanding of the truth from this dialectic that hopefully we've gone through step by step by being like Jesus, listening to Socrates, to recognize these principles. And to recognize at the end of the book, Jesus's counterattack. All of the things he came to see as true through the dialectic, through understanding, verifiable, both in step-by-step reason, logos, understanding, and confirmed in direct experience, including the ultimate experience of an encounter with intelligence itself, the standard of truth, reason and experience, or rationality and evidence, logos and ousia. All of those things we've come to see together, he threw away, he dismissed, he rejected to make the exact opposite statements, giving us a demonstration of that very human condition we are seeking to understand, because we are seeking to free ourselves from it ourselves as our purpose in this lifetime, and necessary for a good death and a good reincarnation, or ideally to escape the cycle of reincarnation down into Hades. Hades being planet Earth, where we live in a world ruled by, again, the systems of pathologos, the groups defined by the pathologos, the most ignorant and unjust. So we are getting a demonstration of what it's like. We can see someone else in it, which is easier to see when we're in it than when we are in it ourselves. Which means all of those conditions that Socrates laid out for the new class of philosophers, the new way of being, the new age of man, the new golden age, all of those things he described as, by the way, the name he put on it at the end of the book, Hellenic, the Hellenic way of being, be able to not just be reading this stuff, but doing it, demonstrating it, becoming an exemplar, having dialogues about truth and justice, adding to the tradition, and writing your own dialogues as well. All of those things this book has offered to you on a plate. Because we've seen, the main part of the book gives us all of the information about what's true. The ending of the book shows Jesus's problem, shows the nature of our pathologo states of mind that rejects the truth and entrenches us into an old family way of being with our own false image of the self, causing it all that we don't know we have. A negative state of mind that's familiar within our life, has a history within our life, is acceptable within the family. Certain particular languages, certain particular catchphrases, interesting idiosyncratic language, and functioning in a way that opposes our own self-interests. Jesus demonstrated all of that. Our job, therefore, is to take all of that, match it up with the understanding from the book that we've been reading, and contribute to the tradition, add to the tradition by writing our own dialogue about truth and justice, and writing our own book, the sequel, Socrates and Jesus, a dream analysis talk in heaven, or Socrates and Jesus, a midwife talk in heaven, either or. Now, all the way through the text, Socrates has been pointing out that dreams are the most significant. Dreams are the highest standard for a philosopher, the highest activity that we can engage in. And when we're ranking how far, because everyone therefore can be ranked on that graph, how far through your logos and ousia, your understanding and vision of reality, or the self-logos, how far through to the self-logos have you gotten? And how far through, on the other axis, how far through your purification of the false idea of self, the pathologos, have you gotten? So when we are making that decision or judgment on all of the philosophers in history leading to you, the ultimate standard is someone who has recognized the significance of dreams and practices dream analysis, incorporated dream analysis into the dialectic or philosophy, true philosophy. So it seems like the author of this book has given you everything to define the nature of the self-logos and the nature of human problems and what's involved in moving from one to the other. Given you a demonstration of that very problem at the end of the book with Jesus's counterattack, his pathologo state of mind. For you to gain a definition or understanding, and for you to demonstrate that understanding yourself in writing the sequel of the book, therefore meeting all of the conditions for the new age, for the new way of being, or the sage, the true mystic. Many other staff bearers, but only the true philosophers are the actual mystics, says Socrates in this book and elsewhere. So giving you everything you need to define and demonstrate, to understand and put it into practice. What a banger. What a banger. Now, last time I gave a few clues or a few hints or suggestions on how you might structure that book and how you might structure the dream that Jesus reflects on with Socrates. You might notice, if you're familiar with the the dialogues that Plato wrote about Socrates, it starts with, "Oh, yesterday we did this," a reflection on what they did in the past. In a similar vein, you might have Socrates saying, "Hey, what did you think about this dialogue that we just read, this book that we had yesterday in heaven, Jesus? What are your reflections on it? What did you see? Did you reflect on it?" Or maybe the book could be, "Let's reflect on it." Because remember, our job isn't just to read Apollo, it's to reflect Aphrodite, Logos and Ousia, understanding and reflection, and the two to come together in the dialectic. So Apollo, Aphrodite, and Hermes, the anagogic triad. Reading, reflection, so we can bring it together into a whole, and in order to master the Hermes dialectic, which is the necessary method to reaching our goal, says Socrates in the book. So maybe we should reflect on it now today. Or maybe he could say, "Hey, between this conversation and our last conversation, what were your dreams like? There are lots of ways that you could kick off that dialogue, but that seems to be what Socrates is offering on the table. So, genius. He also mentioned the ox herding pictures. So when you have had a recognition that there is a realm of mind or being, second hypothesis, as you seek that, as you wake up to the fact that you're on this journey, that's transpersonal, it's for everyone, it's not an individual thing, it's not a matter of your opinion. And as Socrates says at the end, there aren't many paths, so whatever path you're on is fine. No, there's one path. It's the Logos. To follow it as a way of being is called being Hellenic, and it's what we all need. One path, one goal. I lost my train of thought. Giving you an opportunity to follow that one path, put it into effect, write a dialogue, reflecting on your own experience. Hopefully you've been learning on, you've been practicing or wondering about how you might use the structure of the dialectic to unpack your dreams. And follow that archetype that the Hellenic people knew. Achilles, someone who started as the worst kind of person, most entrenched in his family clan beliefs, thinking his family was chosen by the gods. But going through that process of dream-analysis, philosophical midwifery, to free himself from his problem and use that freedom to develop excellence and go from the worst person to the best person, becoming a model and archetype for everyone. And because it's a single path for everyone to a single goal, it puts all other cultures, all other ways of being to shame. So hopefully you're not going to put yourself to shame and your soul and your life to shame and ignore this, and instead fall back on whatever cultural, family, religious tradition that you grew up with and do those activities instead. Hopefully you won't do that. And you might give it a go. And if you do, feel free to share your work on the Discord so you can benefit others as well. And let's see that. So the last thing they said was, the very last passage. I shall wonder if our future talks, where's that going to be? It could only exist if you write it. The author is dead. The author of this one. Our future talks will benefit both those here and elsewhere. So benefit the characters in your book, benefit yourself, and benefit all others who might read it.
Win, 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 win.
So there is an opportunity for you to do this, to be this sort of a person, to fulfill your destiny, your highest purpose and goal. I'm sure we'll find out when we meet again to discuss further. They will find out whether or not we are benefited when we discuss further the nature of the divine, second hypothesis, our state of mind, penultimate spiritual experience, the way of benevolent providence, and the nature of the self. Notice, in this book, all they have been discussing is that first category, the divine. They've demonstrated the nature of the way of benevolent providence through the dialectic, through the dialogue. Contrasting it with belief, Jesus' loyalty to his ignorance because he is the chosen people, as everybody thinks of themselves. Venerated, of course, with religion. Officially, we are the chosen people. Conservatism. Officially, we are the good guys. We are Team MAGA. Billionaires. Well, the market shows that we are the best family. says Elon Musk about his racist slave owners family that he got his wealth from. So, hopefully, maybe reflecting on this talk, or maybe having a dream talk and reflecting on it, so Jesus can come to understand how providence is communicated to us through the dialectic, through works like this one, dialogues like this one, or dreams. To understand the intelligence and care, good head, good heart of providence. From self, through mind, via understanding to benefit your soul. And of course, the nature of self. Now, in this dialogue, Jesus has been blocked from discussing the self because people who have had a glimpse of the second hypothesis think it's the ultimate. But at the end of this book, Socrates did give us a dialectic to open up a reflection on that. Hey, by the way, does everything have a cause? Is the cause prior, transcendent, superior from its effects? Does every experience have a cause? Therefore, does that peak experience you think is the ultimate state, would that also have a cause? That is, let's find the text. Oh. That is independent, prior, and superior to the effects. And we have done a lot of different dialectics on how to move from being to the self. We've talked about all of the its goodness, requiring there be a good self. All of the aspects that we can intellectually distinguish or infer from that oneness. It exists, it's real, it has a vitality, it's a whole of parts. All of those things we call the gods as a personification, or the selfers, because it's beauty itself, it's justice itself, it's existence itself, it's whole itself. Therefore, for those things to have their own selfhood as the beings, or eidos, mistranslated in modern philosophy as forms, then, well, if they all have self this, self that, there has to be the self as its cause. Just as when we notice beautiful things in the world, a beautiful puppy, a beautiful streamer.
Funny, cool, and accents. Come on.
Hubba. I just want more testosterone to human body ratio, and I'll finally be satisfied.
Thank you, Emma. You notice beauty as adjectives. Our job is to go on to wonder about its cause as a substantive, or we notice it as adjectives, we want to find it as a noun. That's the beauty itself. Similarly, if there's beauty itself, justice itself has that nature of the divine, there must be prior, independent, and superior, its cause, the self. So you could use that or other ones that jump out at you as kinds of dialectics that you might be able to lead Jesus through, having done a dream talk or a midwife talk. So either seeing the dynamics of his problem from this conversation represented analogously through a dream. So you're doing a mythology, you're practicing to become like the dream maker, or just an outright midwifery talk. Literally, let's review this conversation, see what states of mind came up, when they came up, how they function to block your development, if there's any similarity between voices you might remember from your childhood, if that state of mind and functioning has a history through your life, and if we can trace it back to an origin scene where you suffered an injustice against this kind of participation in learning and understanding, this kind of open and free state of mind, when you were as a child and a parental figure said, "Not in this house. That's too scary for us. We can't pretend to be knowers. We'll have to learn and develop. And we don't want to do that because we're human. And humans would rather be smug and cruel in their fake pretending to be wise and knowing than go through that kind of learning and development in that state of openness that challenges everything they think they need but don't. So could you therefore guide Jesus through a reflection to that origin scene and addressing what might be there, both Jesus's false interpretation of that scene and giving a dialectical guided reflection on to find what the truth is. So there's our two aspects: interpretation and true understanding, belief and understanding. So Jesus can see that he's been carrying his whole life a false interpretation that culminated or came together, not like our reading. All our reading comes together in our wondering about the self as a distorted kind of spirituality, a distorted kind of philosophy, a distorted kind of initiation experience. His false interpretation of what's happening at this origin scene comes together, not as the true self, but his false image of the self that he doesn't even know he has. He can only infer, but he must be carrying his whole life, even after death, into this conversation that has limited his participation in this conversation, because how the hell can you talk about the ultimate true nature of the self, that is the highest idea of God, if you're at the same time carrying a diminished view of the self? You can't. How can you apply for the job as manager if you think you've got nothing good to say? You have to sacrifice that diminished idea of yourself or sacrifice the goal. Now, this idea of sacrifice is behind the root word of God. The Anglo-Saxon roots of the word God is sacrifice. What believers sacrifice is the goal. They sacrifice their goal to know the self through the development of logos and understanding for that diminished idea of the self that's taking the blame for the injustice that parental figures or authority figures inflicted on them. So long as we think they're good and beautiful, we have to find a way of taking the blame. Oh, when my parental figures were unjust to me, they were actually loving and kind and wonderful. It's me. They were right about me. And because I would never have guessed that me being understanding and free and open is a bad thing, there's something wrong with my mind. And if all I was doing is following my self goals, then there's something wrong with myself. So there's something wrong with my understanding in pursuit of my own goals. There's something wrong with my state of mind. There's something wrong with myself fundamentally. That's the third, second, and first hypothesis, which isn't wrong. It's literally the state of mind that it's the three things we want to develop. Perfection of our understanding through the dialectic, opening us out to our peak states of mind, good feeling states, and ultimately going through to the cause even of that, the self. 1, 2, 3. That's the triad of the self, or the threesome of self. I love how you say idea. How do I say idea? One, two, three.
Carla, and it's now.
1, 2, 3.
Now.
1, 2, 3. Just like that.
Hazel now.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
2, 3.
Now the other thing. Hazel now.
1, 2, 3.
This is actually getting him right into his body. Now speak.
1, 2, 3.
Now let's make a sound. Just let's make a
Speak.
1, 2, 3.
There we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. What a cutie pie.
spit on me.
Oh my god, Emma.
Gooners.
That's a gooner.
The more holes, the better.
Oh my god, Emma gooning hard today.
Goon.
Goon, goon, goon.
Goon, 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 goon.
So, either mythologically represented through characters, through states of mind, through setting and scene, and through a drama, or just those very states of mind functioning words of Jesus that blocks him, or in a direct reflection of this talk, tracing that state of mind like your time machine DeLorean through Jesus's past to the origin scene, where he came to that false conclusion about self, mind, and understanding. 1, 2, 3. In order to take the blame for his parental figures, to keep his false image of them as loving and knowing and wise and good, because it was too dangerous and he was too young to actually ask questions. Where did you learn that? It's not good or just or true. It's not helpful in the Logos. Did someone do it to you? Did you ever ask your parents who did it to them? It's a family lineage that goes all the way back to caveman times. 1, 2, 3. That's the sound of a caveman speaking, apparently. That was like some study that the BBC did on the bones of cavemen, of Neanderthals, to try and imagine how they sounded. And that was a guy doing the sound. 1, 2, 3. Because only in addressing that false interpretation that was the cause of his false image of self, that's caused him to be stuck in that train tracks of problems and blocks. Only in addressing it as its source or the cause can you be free of problems, just as once free of those problems you can engage in this dialectic to go to the actual source, to the actual cause of not our problems, but of reality, of everything, of goodness, of truth. So it's the same process, but the false idea of self, by addressing its cause and the fundamental principle of problems in the origin scene, just as our excellence is achieved by finding the true self, again through the dialectical reflection on not our negative states of mind, but the peak state of mind, to see not in the negative states of mind what's inferred about our false image of self, but in true spirituality, what can we infer about the self logos as its principle and cause? That's true spirituality or dialectic. Notice, until you go through that same structure or reflection on what was false from the origin scene, Jesus is blocked from going through that dialectic in the actual. So you have to remove the false idea of self, the false conclusions, to be free to actually participate in this dialectic, which follows the same steps, but about the true. And of course, the more familiar you are with the dialectic and these ideas of self, of mind, of understanding, 1, 2, 3, the more you are going to be prepared and open to go through it. So you could therefore write a dialogue that's a simple reflection, but the two of them the next day on this dialogue to address those negative states of mind, to be free to then go on to further discuss the true nature of the divine with reference to everything he saw that was false about his negative states of mind and his negative images of the divine, negative images of justice and beauty, truth and strength from his parental figures. He could use that in your book as a launching pad to ask Socrates or discuss with Socrates the actual nature of truth, the actual nature of beauty. In fact, he might have to do them both in your book, because his job in midwifery is to recognize that they weren't beautiful, they weren't loving, they weren't just, by comparing it to the understanding of what is actually beautiful, what is actually loving, what is actually just. And the greater you understand the true, the easier it is to see the difference with the false. So therefore, either prior or after to the midwife talk, you can then reflect on the true nature of the divine. Then you could reflect on that talk itself, and then Socrates, hey, by the way, were you benefited by this midwife talk? by recognizing you've been stuck in a problem your whole life that you didn't even know. You've been carrying a false image of yourself that diminishes yourself and you didn't even know. How do we go through that reflection? How were you benefited? By the way, and if you have dreams in your book, was all of this information sent to us in your dream? Is that benevolent providence? Also, sorry, only picking on you. Well, you're not really picking on me. You're saying nice things. I play a lot of music in public and I get all sorts of crazy weirdos that say terrible things sometimes. These are nice things.
Making ice cream's a good and courageous thing.
What you're saying is about how great I am is a good and courageous thing.
Goon, 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 goon.
Even if you're gooning.
I'm joy maxing, okay? And if I aura mog you because I'm joy maxing so hard, that just sounds like your cortisol levels are spiking for no reason.
And don't spike your cortisol levels for joy maxing. Not only being a musician, but also being a philosopher. What we're seeing is the stages of development that we're going through to perfect 1, 2, 3, to perfect 3, our understanding. Ultimately, that's what we're here to do, to master the dialectic. The greater someone has understood, mastered, and integrated dialectical understanding, the more of a threat and challenge that person is to the ignorance of those lower down on their development. Meaning, philosophers trigger everyone. Because philosophy is recognizing that we're on a hierarchical stage of development. We're in a video game, we've got something to do. We're playing basketball, oh, we should shoot the ball into the hoop. Everyone around us doesn't realize you're supposed to put the ball in the hoop. And instead of learning how to put the ball in the hoop, human beings find the person who's scoring and try to beat them up. It's stupid. You should be learning from that person, but that's the human condition. Therefore, being someone who's participating in understanding, you're a challenge to trigger this savage ignorance of all people. So trust me, I've gotten a lot worse than I'm cute. Want me to beat up Aussies who don't like you being a DJ for the gym? Yeah, what? Play music and what? You got the reps. Oh yeah, that guy stopped going to the gym shortly after. It's fine. I was ignoring him anyway. I thought about trying to broach these topics with him, but again, he was quite low down, his development into understanding. Very much enjoying his way of being of ignorant belief. So you can't really help someone who doesn't want to learn. You can't do an Aussie accent.
Oh, very handsome and or pretty.
That's me. It's important to remind viewers that as well.
They're secretly turned on by it.
Because you're a gooner.
Goon, 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 goon.
Goon.
Gooners.
Gooners.
They're like a goon. They're a gooner.
They're a gooner. So, being able to reflect on the divine, having been freed from the false image, or using that false image to wonder about what is the true image, or maybe the dream gives him both. Maybe there's one scene where he's in a negative state of mind, allowing you to reflect on your problem, or there's another scene, follow-up scene in the dream where you're in a positive state of mind, opening up these questions about the true nature of the divine. Because the divine, is a state of mind. Non-physical, eternal, paradigmatic state of mind. Peak state of mind. The way of benevolent providence you can outline as your reflection on whether or not that midwife talk or that dream talk benefited them. With the dream talk, you can go one step further. What does that say about your dream maker? That it knows all about you, your problems, how it manifests in your present, its cause and its past, and the future that you could possibly go on. Sometimes it can be professorial. We've seen in the text prophetic Socrates talks about there are descriptions in Plato of him having the ability to withstand severe cold, meditating in one spot for over 24 hours, and also having prophetic powers. But later on in the book, he talks about, what's the other word for prophecy? Divination. Divination. Here we go. Dreams are the essential part of the art of divination. It is through dreams that not only philosophers but all mankind could be visited by pure intelligence, second, and by God, first. So the self and pure intelligence is communicated providentially through our dreams, and it's only through dreams that you can awaken the art of divination. That Socrates goes on to talk about. I wanted to follow those who have so Socrates talking about his life. I wanted to follow those who had a kinship with dreams as they practiced their philosophy. So as you write this book, you have an excuse to do your own dream analysis and learn about that process, as well as describe it in the book you're writing. He held that in the continuous study of dreams, imagination becomes conjoined with a profound understanding. The use of mind, imagination, visualization, and understanding, second and first, come together. That awakens a divine character. So there's our question. What would it be like to have the cognitive function of the self? Not just understanding and imagination. Again, we talk about the dialectician remembering or imagining, or in our reading, we imagine the nature of the divine experience or pure consciousness. Or if you've had an experience, remembering that in imagination and using it as the model for understanding. But what if the two came together? That's awakening our divine character, which can only happen through dream analysis as being our guide. It is through that we, through which we awaken a intuitive intelligence, which is the eye of the soul. Through dreams, it can be approached and experienced. It is from God that the knowledge of dreams comes. He made it clear that gods were not independent floating beings, but rather pure intelligences. Dreams come to us all, and they reveal a personal knowledge about our struggles we desperately need to know. Therefore, in reflecting on the dream, you can talk about the intelligence that must be there to reflect on the nature of divine intelligence. You can reflect on how it functions through providence, providentially communicating to you information about your problems, like the problem in this book that Jesus had, that you desperately need to know. But you can also reflect on who is using that intelligence to communicate providentially to you the highest idea of God, the one self or the good self. But it is entirely unnecessary to interpret dreams. So everything we've been learning about how to read this text without interpretation, you have to take with you in understanding how to read your dreams without interpretation. Dreams become visible from the depths of their obscurity, so that dreams seem obscure to us, but they become visible through a kind of reflection that we both know is the passageway to the divine. And the passageway to the divine, Socrates gives us later on in the text, Hermes is the supplier of philosophy, and Hermes elevates those souls like him. If you don't include the dialectic, which is the power of the Logos, you will utterly fail to achieve the passage from the brilliant light of being to the good itself. There's our passageway. So just as the dialectic or Hermes is necessary, and like a cow who trips over, you will utterly fail because of utters. That's funny.
You actually are too stupid to interact with the rest of the world.
Oh, that joke wasn't that bad. You'll utterly fail to achieve that passage from that divine experience to the self without the dialectic. And what Socrates is saying here, the way of getting out of interpreting dreams to make your dreams clear, dreams will only become visible from the depths of their obscurity through the kind of reflection that we both know is the passageway to the divine. What's the passageway to the divine? Hermes. What's the personification of? Dialectic. What's that? The power of the Logos. That we have concluded is the art we're here to master as our purpose as human beings. Therefore, in your book, from a reflection on the dream, what must have been the intelligence of the dream maker, you can discuss the nature of the divine with Jesus, reflecting on how Jesus was benefited by listening to his dreams through non-interpretation, through the use of the dialectic to listen to its language, how benevolence providence functions. This is what helps human beings. It's not bombs. It's not voting for some dude or praying to some freak. It's the dialectic approach to your dreams, dialectic approach to understanding your dreams. That's where you get divine or benevolent providence. And you can also reflect what must it know about you and what must its cause be. What uses that intelligence to create a work that, like you are making with your book, to create an intelligible work that can be unpacked through the dialectic? It must be the self. Or your book might go the other way. Maybe you can discuss the nature of the divine, benevolent providence and the nature of the self by reflecting on the dream. Or maybe in the dream talk, the dream is communicating this thing to Jesus. Or maybe having addressed his through midwifery, the dreams might have the instruction and the clues and the guidance to that origin scene where Jesus picked up his dickish state of mind, his block state of mind, his counterattack state of mind, his problem state of mind. Having been freed from that, maybe he's able to go back into this conversation he had yesterday, the one that we read this book, and he can be free from that block, so he can therefore follow the dialectic that Socrates tried to start with him, which is the use of providence or dialectic to reflect on his peak experience, the divine, and realize even that must have a cause that is independent, prior, and superior to even that effect, even that peak experience, opening him up to discuss the nature of the self. And what we're seeing is therefore freed to go through the fifth hypothesis, exploration of images that he's carrying from childhood that underlie his fourth hypothesis, beliefs about the self. 1, his states of mind. 2, and his functioning not through understanding but interpretation. 3, reflecting on the nature of divine providence. 3rd hypothesis, which is providence or the dialectic, the passageway to the divine and the way of understanding your dreams without interpretation. That must be using the second hypothesis, intelligence, as the map or paradigm, which is the divine state of mind. And then going on further to realize that must have a cause, independent, prior, and superior. The first hypothesis, self, or the one self, or the self logos. The stages of development. And by the way, in your book, after going through those stages, you can again reflect on it. Hey, by the way, Jesus, in going through those stages, do you recognize that these were the very stages that we were exploring, that you were blocked from seeing yesterday in this book that we read, that we've just finished reading? By the way, did you notice that you had to first address your pathologos in the midwifery and dream talk? Did you recognize that there were fundamentally, for each of these 4 steps leading to the self, there were 4 kinds of negative states of mind that you went through in your dream? And one of them in particular represented your family way of being. That was the characteristic of your pathologos. What can we say, therefore, about the pathologos? Reflecting on the 10th hypothesis, the nature of the pathologos that opposes the self-logos. Because what we're learning is you can't carry both. You can't be the manager and also have a diminished view of yourself. You can't carry the 10th hypothesis, pathologo self, and also be open to explore the true nature of the self. But also, you haven't completed your journey through the 5 positive stages until you reach the ultimate. So too, you haven't freed yourself from your problems unless you've understood all 4 categories of pathologos, not just your own, but also the principle of the pathologos image of the self and how it's a distorted reflection of the true. It's not because you're evil or bad. It's that you have this capacity for enlightenment. You're just applying it to someone who appeared good when you were too young to know better. But also understanding the role it plays within learning, within the human condition, and also within evolution. Pathologos image of the self. Then you can have reflect with Jesus in your book on, in order to go through that process, did he go through 5 kinds of interpretation? Were there times when he was just rejecting? Hey, maybe you're reflecting on yesterday's talk. Yesterday, were there times when you rejected things that I said? 5th hypothesis, the Slytherin house, if you want to use the houses of Harry Potter. Were there times when you just offered your own beliefs? When I mentioned that thing about your idea of God being a historical force that guides a chosen people as a veneration of the pathologos, did you just say, no, actually what God is a necessary force to fight Satan? Did you just offer your own beliefs there as a way of interpreting what I said? By the way, were there some times when you just took a piece of what I said and you ignored the rest and just used that piece to put on the cloak of your old beliefs? In the conversation that we had today, or reflecting on our conversation yesterday in the book that you're writing, were there times when you tried to keep the old and new together? You like the idea of philosophy, the Hellenic way of being, the New Age, but you also wanted to be a Christian still, or a Jew still, or a Pauline Jew. Modern Christians are Pauline Jews still. And after going through the dream talk and the midwife talk, were you able to go to the first stage of interpretation? So notice all of these stand above that was non-interpretive, or to sacrifice the old and accept the new. By the way, as we went through that human most important activity of dream analysis, or reflecting on our conversation we had yesterday, Jesus, were there times when you tried to just ignored me? Were there times when you mocked me when I challenged your family way of being or your personal beliefs you're attached to? Were there times when you threatened me, saying, "Oh, you can't say that, Socrates. We Christians will get you, or you'll burn in hell. Jesus will not." He wouldn't say Jesus will get you because he is Jesus. The devil will get you. Threaten? Were there times when you tried to kick me out of the conversation? Get out of here. I'm not talking to you anymore. You're out. Fuck off. Someone in chat saying, Sasa saying, "I only threaten people with a good time."
Jester goon maxed.
You just a goon. Coffee and muffins. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Spit on me.
Oh my god. But also don't spit on me.
Goon, 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 goon.
Because that makes you a gooner.
There's a UFO with Jesus in there.
Okay. Maybe you can talk about that. I heard on Joe Rogan there was a UFO with Jesus in there.
I don't want to eat a monkey.
And he doesn't want to eat a monkey. Now, ultimately, was there a time when you wanted to kill me? Or say that your family would kill me, or the chosen people would kill me? Just like the capitalists, conservatives, and clergy are doing to our species, or those that threaten their ignorance. Do they threaten to kill? Now, what we're seeing is all of these here stand apart. The ultimate. Because what we want to kill is, we want to kill our pathologos, or sacrifice our pathologos idea of the self, so we can move into the first kind of interpretation, which is not interpretation, so we can ultimately reach the self. So you can represent these four categories of the human drama. Ever since COVID, I stopped spitting on people.
Do a poggers.
We're happy. We'll do a poggers for that. Like a llama. Llama.
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
Your head is large with all the secrets from philosophy that you can talk to your friend about over coffee and muffins. So if you wanted to represent the 5 stages, so in your talk, you could say to Jesus, "Hey, by the way, didn't we recognize that theology isn't literal? To take your beliefs literally is the nature of human ignorance and savagery, what the Hellenes called being a barbarian. But what it actually is a personification or metaphor of metaphysical principles of the philosophical journey. Could we do that? If there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stages of our development, could we represent them as One Piece characters? The movement from Smoker to Blackbeard to Shanks. Shanks is the best because it's understanding, it's the dialectic. To Zoro to the king of the pirates, Luffy. Now, we don't have to use the Greek gods because they're not really part of our culture. You could use Marvel superheroes if you wanted to. The 4 classes of rejection, each one of them a rejection of those 5 stages: nihilism, materialism, or reductionism, the most common and most dangerous worldview, good versus bad, devil versus God versus the devil, competition, war. There is no divine providence. Everything is equal and opposite, so all opinions are equal. So there's no ability to judge what's bad or good. All you can do is blow up the world. 7th hypothesis. Or sixth hypothesis, the Mickey Mouse. I'm not them. I believe in reason and understanding, but the cause of reason and understanding isn't the second hypothesis, because I'm opposed to that being in the sixth. That's my class of problem. All we can do is invent a system. Marxism, socialism, capitalism, all of the isms. Or, like Mickey Mouse has a way of talking, a way of being, but he's not real. He can do good and bad things. There are things he would say and wouldn't say, just as there's things you wouldn't say under socialism or whatever. But it's just imaginary. Ultimately, we recognize that we have to understand the principle of our objection to what's real, and the principle that if you fully understand any one of those positions, says Socrates in the book, let's see that, then you can free yourself from them. A wave of relief came across Socrates. So, by the way, those 5 stages of development, or the One Piece characters, are in this paragraph. He brought me to see that without the idea of the self, there can be no true philosophy. 1. First hypothesis. By bringing me to see that through dialectic, what can be said of the one can be said of the self, the one self. With a singleness of vision, Socrates is talking about his teacher Parmenides. Parmenides guided me to see how the one self functions as the most brilliant divine luminosity. Second hypothesis 2. He revealed that through his dialectic, that between any moment in our physical time, there is a gap. And through that gap reflects the outpouring of a divine providential nature, whose source is the one self. So the very last line of the book, I hope in the sequel, we talk about the nature of the self, there it is, the nature of the divine, there it is, the functioning of the self, and the nature of divine providence, the outpouring from the self through intelligence, through the gap between each moment, that we can participate in through this dialectic that Socrates had with his teacher, and the dialectic you are hopefully going to write about with Jesus. Now, he showed me the nature of human problems. He showed in a single stroke that the wall of belief that harbors all those beliefs in a shadow of reality, they cling to that shadow as if it's real. So, the origin scene, we take that imitation of the divine experience, or the imitation of goodness or beauty in our parental figures, as though it's the divine. It ain't. We're too young to know better. And then we get stuck in their problems, venerate it into belief of all sorts. Religion, capitalism, conservatism, etc. But then, the fifth hypothesis, I was relieved when he showed that the dualism many take as real is empty. By dualism, he means the fifth hypothesis says we can't ever know the nature of mind or self. We are disconnected. Dual. 2 different things. But it's actually empty, because he showed me how to reflect on each of these positions, all of those 5, analogically, because they're all analogical reflections of the self. So for that fifth, the belief that you can't ever know the self or the divine, its message was, it's empty because the one, nor all that is, can ever touch one another. Its metaphorical message to us isn't literal. People who say you can never know the nature of God or the nature of the divine, that's not real. They don't know that. But it's a message. The fact that it exists as a possible worldview, common or uncommon, quite common I would say, is a message about the fact that the transition from the divine, second hypothesis, to the self or God is a jump. It's not that we can't know them, it's that they are distinct, different realms. And that's the cause and effect that we saw as well. The cause is prior, independent, and superior. That independentness. is the message that we are getting from that first stage, the smoker. Smoker is a One Piece character. Way of being that we move through in our development. Socrates goes on at the end of this paragraph to say, indeed, he then put all that I had seen together in a way that I could not assume anything else was true. These 5 One Piece characters, as our soul's development through the self logos, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, nothing else could be true. They're necessary. Because he did this by demonstrating that by way of demonstrating that showed it was necessary if by its denial it alone could exist. Meaning all of the false ideas of reality, the kinds of, when you get stuck in your beliefs, that's called ignorance. The versions of those oppositions to our benefit, pathologos, are all denials of any one of those stages or the self itself. But what Parmenides demonstrated, if you completely understand any one of these positions, you show that by denying it, you actually, within that denial, you see the necessity for that thing you deny. So these negative classes of, or these high pathologos or negative states of mind human being have as the 4 classes of pathologos problems under the pathologos itself, the 10th. If you understand any of them, you're free. Because how can you take it literally if you see that it's defined by an opposition to something that must exist if you deny it? So you can, in your book, you can have Jesus reflect on him going through these different states of mind and maybe reflecting on, maybe focusing in on one of them and seeing as a principle this idea of God versus the devil that he believes in, that causes his problems, that rejects the logos. That very logos that it rejects has to exist. And see as principle that each one of these, which we could call the friends characters, represent them as characters and friends, from Joey to Ross to Monica to Rachel to Gunther, the coffee house dude who represents the pathologos. They're all possible kinds of problems humans can have, classes of problems. That's a mythology, representing it with characters. Now you might not want friends characters, you can pick your own. Those kinds of interpretation we went through in the talk yesterday, if that's what your book's about, in the dream talk that we went through, if that's what your book's about, or in the midwife talk, if that's what you're having your book about, represent them, those 5 stages, as Hogwarts houses. Slytherin, Ravenclaw, all that. And the 5 general classes of negative reactions to truth and our benefit, or people speaking truth. Pokemon. Do you ignore things that do not fit into your class of interpretation that is used to save your friend category of pathologos? To keep you stuck in your level of development or One Piece character? Do you ignore like Snorlax? Do you mock like Mr. Mime? Do you threaten like Rhydon? Do you exile like Abra? Or do you kill people who speak up against your ignorance like Charizard? This could be what you can use to put together all of these things that we have come to see in this reading for yourself. As we go back to the book. Whoops.
What the hell's wrong with you people? You sick freaks.
Sick freak. The new philosophers. Socrates says, hey, by the way, there needs to be a way of bringing all these ideas and practices together into a unity. That's your book, your sequel. Needs to bring together theology, contemplation, dialogue, dialectic, dream theory, and the practice of bringing the mind to understand its function and operations. Isn't that everything what we've been doing today? Summarizing the book that you could possibly write? Now there is something going on down on earth, says Socrates and Jesus. He's talking about you. I haven't met any of those who may be doing it. You got to do it. He's offering it to you. I don't think it'll be long before I meet these new philosophers. And I'll wait until I learn more before I say more. What are these new philosophers? Well, I will risk saying a few words to help those who are into it, who are following along. Consider what we've been saying about the interpreters. Notice they bring forth even interpreters of interpreters and a whole string of them commenting on their priors and advancing some point that degenerates into more interpretation. None of them are doing what we did. They comment on what we have said and write their own commentaries. So should we conclude that both Jesus and Socrates have brought into existence nothing like themselves, only interpreters, the very thing that we are trying to overcome? Because what makes Socrates and Jesus the same? They didn't write it down. He's offering you to write your own book. Shall we say the obvious? Both of our ways of being express our practice as a way of life. Have we been amiss in not stressing this obvious truth? Philosophy is currently in the hand of scholars, not actual philosophers. As interesting as those commentaries may be, they're a far cry from participating in. This is what you're supposed to be doing. So what the modern philosophers ain't doing, you can do by writing this book, writing the sequel. What's true philosophy? Not what the scholars are doing, but participating in a living dialogue that explores truth and reality. Again, look at those who are presently called philosophers, and you can see very quickly they are lovers not of wisdom, which is that clear and brilliant light of being, but philodoxias. Philo, love, doxia, opinion. They're lovers of opinions. I agree with all the... Love a philodoxia, modern philosopher. Well, my conclusion is, I agree with all of my own opinions. Oh, very good. You should go on Joe Rogan's podcast. Yes, you should interview Jordan Peterson. He also agrees with his own opinions. Bullshit. Write this book as a way out of that crap. But I have heard there is a breed of curious seekers. That's you.
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
Your heads are now large and full of secrets. Who have been exploring dreams. So maybe include a dream in your book. And contemplation. And they even write their new dialogue. Hooray!
The T-virus will transform me into an epic creation.
This will transform you into an epic creation.
It's awesome, and it's gangster.
And it's gangster.
Hubba hubba. I just want more testosterone to human body ratio, and I'll finally be satisfied.
Emma, you're such a goon.
Goon. I'm just asking for some gooner men.
Just asking for some gooner men,
Goon.
They even write their new dialogues. Taking off in a direction akin with ours, yet different in an interesting way. They have revived Homer's midwifery. So here we go. He's saying, in this book, to write this new dialogue, to become one of the new philosophers that don't exist yet, but they're waiting for us, include dreams, but also include Homer's midwifery. Everything we've been understanding from this book about the nature of human problems and how you would go about reflecting on it through to your past to address its cause in that origin scene. And develop your own method. They develop a method and practice to accompany this. So yes, I am curious about calling them a name because it's not clear. Not yet. At least not yet. Just where they are going. That's interesting, says Jesus. Could they be members that continue the Platonic tradition and add significant elements to it? And they live their life in conformity with their philosophy and become exemplars of their philosophy. Yes, says Socrates, I do think you're right about being a new member of that class. They are the number one class of interpreter, which is the Philosopher's Stone of Hogwarts. There are 4 houses of Hogwarts before you eat the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone of Hogwarts, Master Wizards. They're not interpreters at all, but they are exponents of a living tradition. This raises a question. Should we consider that the divisions we have made are similar to the psychological types of man? For in reviewing our divisions, have we not identified certain attitudes or states of mind that block a more full participation in the spiritual life? There may be different ways of describing philosophical types, but with our work, we know that these divisions mark the degree that one can enter into the spiritual journey. He's describing, therefore, our friends' characters. The psychological types of men are these 5 that mark the degree you're blocked from participating in the spiritual journey, which is the One Piece characters. So he's talked about your Hogwarts house of interpretation, the psychological types of man, your pathologos categories, which are states of mind that function as kinds of blocks that humans are in, friends characters that block your ability to become king of the pirates. King of the Pirates, One Piece characters. So here we're getting confirmation of all that we are hypothesizing about what we're being asked to do at the end of this book. So, and by the way, the highest kind of philosophers in the past are those who recognize the role of dreams as the major player. So there we go. The book has demonstrated enough information about the truth, given you enough to define and understand, demonstrated the nature of our blocks. We have that model, or those psychological types in our development, well, our stages of development, our psychological types of pathologos, our kinds of interpretation, and the way in which we might respond negatively. Although that last category, maybe we kind of added. We did a bit of inference there, so you can leave that out if you want. It came up in our reading anyway. To give you an opportunity to become that new race of man that he said he wasn't going to say much about, but at the end of the book, he does give it a name. Right at the end, he says, when Jesus says, well, actually, maybe there isn't just one method. You don't have to write a sequel, just do something else. Because we all share a path to heaven. We all end up in heaven. We just differ on the road we follow on earth. Live your life any other way. It's all the same. Socrates says, no, he doesn't pussy out. Truth is truth. One method, the self-logos. This map isn't just an opinion. It's true. You have to understand that and verify it for yourself and use it to benefit. Not to feel like you're so smart and win a debate.
Debate, weirdo.
But to actually benefit yourself and others in writing this book. Socrates says, bollocks to that. The destiny of man, our purpose, lies in the single path of the Hellenes, for we all need this path we have just described. And we have been walking. To know thyself is to be Hellenic. Socrates says, Jesus says, but what about my religions? What about my Abrahamic God of killing people and stuff? What about that? You're saying it's not true. It isn't true. You have to understand that and free yourself from that ignorance. You have to, therefore, in freeing yourself from that ignorance, in the sequel that you can write, because you go through dream analysis and midwifery, recognizing dreams as the pinnacle of philosophy and human activity, reviving that Homeric tradition of midwifery, creating your own method to practice that midwifery and dream analysis, to free yourself from the blocks, reflect on this very dialogue to see how that might have came up in this dialogue to block him from his own benefit and development. If you do that by freeing yourself from that pathologos, which then becomes the Abrahamic God as it's venerated, so freeing yourself from this sick idea of God, which is a pathologos because it's not the self, you can realize that in the soul of man, as you've just gone through Jesus in the book that you write, there is a healing power of the logos that overcomes the pathologos, which is the sick image of the self. That's the last thing Socrates says. The last thing Socrates says is a message to you. That's what you haven't realized this, meaning you have to read the next book that you will write. You out there watching. In other words, going through those things we mentioned, overcoming the pathologos, showing the healing power of the logos, freeing himself up to then. And then Jesus said, well, that's fantastic. I'm looking forward to that sequel. And I hope that future talk will benefit not only the author, but anyone who reads it, both now and in the future. And when we do have that talk in that sequel, I hope we discuss further the nature of the divine, 2, the way of benevolent providence, 3, and can go on to discuss and maybe discover the true nature of the self. 1, 2, 3. Amazing. Now, we had to go from the end of the book back to the relevant sections. That's reading, that's weaving it all together. See how the book weaves together so perfectly and beautifully for only those who have a genuine interest in development, in wisdom, integrity and courage in seeking truth. Only those who are like, holy crap, it sounds like he's giving me a mission, a quest. To carry a question is to be on a quest. Us carrying that question about what we're being asked to do in the sequel allowed us to go back through those key points, weaving it all together, and we got so much more information about the next book that you are to write. Perhaps if you're brave enough, or not brave enough, curious enough. You'll develop courage as you go, as you do it anyway. See, brings it all together. And you can use that structure of little bits and clues that come together at the end, allowing you to weave it together for those who are genuinely interested in solving the puzzle. You can use that in your book. You can also demonstrate it in the dream, because dreams work that way as well. Masterpiece. This book, therefore, demonstrates that the nature of the human condition is truth and humanness. Truth ain't enough, you have to do midwifery and dream analysis. Demonstrating that it's a single dialectic that has its application in healing the pathologos with the logos, and knowing the self as our purpose or highest goal or destiny, the self-logos, same dialectic. But saying it's something you have to do. If you do it, you become an exemplar of philosophy. You're different from the modern philosophers who are actually philodoxias, lovers of opinions. You become Hellenic. to know thyself as Hellenic, which is the single one path that we all need. To do that, you'll have to be different. They aren't here yet. There aren't people doing this yet, says the book. How many other books not only outline the nature of the truth and problems and showing that it's necessary, but also point out, hey, there ain't any bods around doing it? How many books then give you all of this guidance and instructions on how to do it? He's really, really helping us out. Giving you all of the things, if you write this book, that will meet the criteria of the new age and the new philosophers that it's called being Hellenic. Giving you what you need to do your purpose as a human being in this lifetime, purify your false image of yourself that causes your problems, and perfect your mastery of the logos to become like the self, or the dream maker, or the highest idea of God, or Socrates. How many other books gives you that spiritual method, as well as describing it in such depth? But not just outlining it, giving it to you in these clues that you can piece together for yourself and make your own. Can we conclude this is perhaps the greatest book ever written, considering it outlines the nature of human problems that have to be purified through the logos, the nature of human excellence that can be perfected and mastered through the dialectic and logos, demonstrating it with the two biggest figures of humanity itself, Socrates personifying understanding, Jesus personifying belief. I don't think you get bigger figures than those two. Perfectly representing their way of thinking, their tradition, their history. Pointing to what's needed, pointing out it's not currently there, but offering you an opportunity to do it, fulfilling your purpose, benefiting you in this lifetime and after. How many books give you something like that and give it to you in such a brilliant, helpful, beneficial, beautiful way? Could we therefore call it a masterpiece? The best book ever written? Definitely top 5. Amazing. And now, it's up to you to write the sequel. How is the chorus going to react to that? Because they've been the ones who have been hating all the way. And then there's the anti-chorus, the ones that clap back with the haters. Hey, here's throwing your haterade in your face. Epically owning them. Everything we've seen, all of this to benefit yourself in the most highest possible way, fulfilling your purpose here as a person, benefiting yourself, your relationships, humanity itself, stopping, perhaps wiping away the upcoming Armageddon, benefiting your soul and your reincarnation in the most profound way. All of that's on the table. All you have to do is give it a shot. How do the haters respond? And how do we clap back? Because that's the last 2 paragraphs. We've got 2 more things to read in the book. I'm going to top up my coffee and let's jump in. All right, so we've read most of this ending part here. After the invitation to reflect on Jesus's peak experience, which he took to be reality, and as Socrates mentioned, people start their own cults or groups or religion based on that vision, because it's the highest experience that we can have, and they think they've reached everything. Of course, the problem is no dialectic, no understanding of that experience. no removal of their false beliefs, so it can just serve to justify, or they'll venerate their own ignorant false beliefs. That's the cause of sadism and injustice. With that experience, thinking it's the best, and it everything in their previous life has changed, so they think, oh, definitely this is real and special and so on. But of course, that's again the same human problem yet again. Socrates offers Jesus a dialectical reflection, question and answer, step by step, no need for belief, none of that crap. Reflection on its cause, which must be keeping in mind that we, like a cow that falls over, we will utterly fail.
Oh my fuck.
To reach the transition from the brilliant light of being to the good self without the dialectic. So using that dialectic to reflect on something that is its cause, the cause of that peak experience so many people take as the ultimate. And may even start cults or religions based on it. Where are we? The idea that the cause must be superior, prior, and independent, transcending experience. Also, something that wasn't used. So, this, of course, triggers Jesus' counterattack. This is, again, what we have to be aware of as we're invited to, or invite others to, a state of being beyond where they're currently at, or where we're currently at. We tend to hit our wall. That's our block. We will interpret. We will respond negatively. We will be that one of those Pokemons and one of those Hogwarts houses as we interpret and respond negatively to that which is beyond our current scope, unless we are a rare kind of person who is completely open and curious and loving of understanding. Again, they are very, very rare birds in the world. So Jesus hits his block, goes into his pathologo state of mind, which means we don't get to explore this idea. Now, this is interesting because while we talk about cause and effect, and the cause being superior, independent, and prior from its effects, even that peak experience, so when that was the step one of that dialectic, Jesus' response is, I'll have to dwell on that later. You made me wonder about the effects of peak experiences. No. The question was about the cause of peak experiences, and the invitation was to wonder about it now, not later. I find it challenging. He does find it challenging. That's the issue. And I suspect this idea will have far-reaching consequences. It will, to his whole way of being, his ignorance, his problems, and all of the people who maybe followed him because they believed that he had it all figured out. And then he goes on to his problem. Actually, I think we can never come together. See? Threatening or exiling. We're at fundamental odds because of a difference in our beliefs. Bollocks. I'm not talking about beliefs, you idiot. Beliefs are for babies. You can tell because this starts with B. Beliefs, babies. Understanding, ultimate chads.
The T-virus will transform me into an epic creation.
Understanding transforms all of us into an epic creation.
The more holes, the better.
Emma.
Gooners.
The T-virus will transform me into an epic creation.
This is why I love this channel, man.
Because we have fun sound drops. So, gets into his state. Of course, in your sequel, he can reflect on this, maybe. or it can be represented in the dream. It's up to you. But that's his reaction to cause and effect. Right before this, Socrates introduces sets the dialogue up with a different idea. Here is an idea I seldom express openly because it's met with such scorn when it is shared. Unless the audience has a high level of intelligence, it will likely be rejected. I find that intriguing, says Jesus. What is it? As above, so below. So what we are discovering is this idea of a cause being prior, independent, superior triggered Jesus, meaning the other idea, as above, so below, Socrates wasn't able to bring into the dialectic and put those two ideas together to come to a conclusion. That's the step-by-step reasoning, meaning this dialectic is on hold. It's unresolved. It's waiting for you to maybe resolve it in the sequel. Instead of saying, that's challenging and I'll have to think about that later, and misunderstanding what he said, oh, we're talking about effects, we're talking about causes. After the dream talk and midwifery talk in your sequel, you can go back to this. Hey, by the way, remember as above, so below? Are you now more open to it? Maybe you can reflect on cause and effect in the dream. Hey, was the effect of the failure in the dream caused by the role that you played? And did we have to do an examination or dialectical midwifery reflection on seeing that the cause of, so the effect of the role, which caused the effect of the failure in your dream, the failure to meet the goal established in the dream, was that role caused by a state of mind? And in freeing yourself from that limiting, blocking state of mind, did you have to address its cause? So the causes were always prior to the effects, had a higher significance, and were independent. Didn't matter whether it was whether you succeeded or failed in the dream, you still had that state of mind, and you still had that false idea of yourself, even as its cause. So now that you're okay with cause and effect, let's go back to this as above, so below in our suspended dialectic from this book. Are the effects like its cause? Likeness. By the way, in the dream talk, did I have to ask you, what was it like in the dream? Is likeness the key principle, the key idea? As above, so below. The idea that it took a lot of, you have to be quite intelligent to accept it without rejecting it and not respond with scorn. Therefore, if we are examining that peak state of mind in your life and maybe reflected in the dream that you put in your book, does its cause have to be as above, so below, like its effect? In other words, just as you had to go back to your origin scene by tracing that state of mind in your dream, which played out in this talk too as a problem, and you had to examine that state of mind and infer what your image of self you must have that you're carrying that you don't know you have. So too, do we have to free from that false inference of the self-image that becomes our mask and our problem? Do we have to infer from the effect state of mind the true state of the true self by using this principle as above, so below? Therefore, likeness is necessary for us to go beyond experience and recognize the experience is like its cause, not the same, like. Therefore, this suspended dialectic with this suspended idea, as above, so below, you can bring together with cause and effect to do a dialectic on a reflection on the self that Jesus might be open to in your sequel. Pretty cool? Did I mention this book's a fucking banger?
Off the perky, call me Kirky.
We're all off the perky, call me Kirky today with this book.
It's awesome and it's gangster.
I know it is, isn't it, Emma?
That's funny.
Yeah, it's so funny. Don't have to say it like that, though. So, suspended dialectic. Jesus goes into his problem. I'm taking over. I know why we're at odds. I have all the answers. Bullshit, you don't. Socrates says, no, no. A rare moment. By the way, in your dream, you could have a pattern unfolding and there could be this strange moment that breaks the pattern. As an indication, pay attention here. For us, reading this book, this is the first time Socrates has started with no. This is also the first time Jesus has tried to take over the conversation and tell Socrates what's what. And also decide that they can't come together. That's pretty crappy. You're Socrates and Jesus, two of the two biggest figures probably in humanity, or at least Western culture. You can't have a conversation in heaven? If you two can't do it, what hope is there for the rest of us? It stands out. It's a different thing. It's a problem. So too, this stands out. No, actually, the difference is how you understand the gods, not belief, understand. You think it's literal. We've already demonstrated it's, again, likeness, analogy, an analogical likeness or personification of understandable principles that we can grasp with understanding in the experience of pure intelligence, know it as an object of knowledge perhaps, and utilize it in our soul's development. It's a personification. It ain't literal. Now, the real reason we might be at odds is because you've rejected that because you're in your problem state of mind. Reminding us why this book is a banger. It's an intelligible work that is complete and that needs no interpretation, because if you're interpreting, you're just bringing in your pathologos that you're supposed to be here to purify as the meaning of life. Now that we've addressed that, the division is you're forgetting what you've already understood. Misunderstanding what the gods are, metaphors. Let's address your false belief. Notice, Jesus, you said we'll always be at odds and we can't come together because we have different beliefs. What's that? Now imagine that was expressed within the cosmos. What kind of God is that? Who is always at odds because he's a different belief? Based on a chosen tribe, Jesus says, my belief is from my tribe. We are the zealots. We're not the Eurasians and we're not the this, we're not the that. We are these people and we're the chosen people and our beliefs are better. What's that? What kind of God would that be? And by the way, who are you at odds with? What would you call my false beliefs? Is your idea, therefore, of God the guiding force in this interaction and in all of reality? Something belief-based that picks a chosen people, is a historical force that guides a chosen people? Now that we've defined what the gods actually are, metaphorical analogy or personification of these understandable and knowable principles that we need to utilize for our development, how different is it from God being a literal dude who is a historical force that guides a chosen people? A spiritual force that guides a chosen certain people through history? Again, rejecting all of the things that they've just seen, even forgetting the fact he's just forgotten and had to be reminded again, because he goes back to actually, God is really this. Didn't you just have that mistake a second ago? Illustrating the necessity for dream analysis and midwifery, illustrating the necessity for your sequel, because
Imagine people change personality maxing required. No, you're not. The problem is that you can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into.
You can't reason himself out of this position. You've already reasoned himself into this understanding of God. He already forgot it. He reasoned him back into remembering it, and 5 seconds later he forgot it.
People don't logic their way into stupid positions. They stupid their way.
into stupid positions.
He didn't logic his way into his false beliefs, and
The problem is that you can't reason someone
Out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into.
can't reason himself out of that position he didn't reason into. Therefore, need for midwifery and dream analysis. But this time, Socrates addresses it. Oh, okay. What does Jesus say? Well, actually, God is a creator God. He's the God of my people. Again, pathologos, personification, projection of the pathologos, instead of what's theology actually? A personification of the self-logos. What is belief in religion? A personification of the pathologos. Same but opposite. Likeness. Some same, some different. Excuse me. Pardon me.
You know what? Suck my dick.
Just, oh my goodness, that was a bit harsh. But maybe.
Hey, you can't say that to her. You show her some respect.
Okay, sorry about that. Personification of your pathologos taken literally, religion. Politics. Conservatism. The beliefs that justify capitalism. Personification of the self logos, true theology, true metaphysics, true mythology. Interesting? Is it interesting? Isn't that cool to discover? I think so. So, we can see the similarities. Also, recognizing the similarities between one's personification in religion to one's pathologos is necessary for your dream in your sequel. Because you have to gain an understanding of what might be, again, it's a book, so you don't know exactly his pathologos, what his personal problem is reflected in his everyday life, not just in his theology, but in his relationships, in this conversation now. It's the same thing. It's analogy, as above, so below. The above is his pathologos, false image of self and false beliefs and way of being. The below is this conversation, his idea of God, the dream drama that you can write in your book. So, God's necessary is a creator God of his people, necessary to overcome the power of evil spawn, which has as its cause, so the badness has its cause Satan, as goodness has its cause God. Again, we use the dialectic. Socrates used a dialectic then to prove that a God, by definition, has to be eternally of its nature, which is an eternal goodness. War is an abandonment of goodness. Goodness being rational and intelligible. So eternally rational, eternally intelligible, which is insight into the self, by the way. War is the abandonment of the intelligible. Therefore, God, in principle, by definition, can't be the Abrahamic God at war. Equally, we go through the dialectic with Satan. Satan is the personification of evil. Evil is the unintelligible and irrational. To participate in war requires some rationality to plan for the battle and marshal your forces. Therefore, it is impossible for Satan to be a warring personification of evil. God, the Abrahamic God and Satan can't exist in principle by the dialectic, by reason alone. There's the next dialectic we do. They can't clash. The principle, once again, of likeness. If they are together in the same realm, God has to go down to participate in evil, becoming more unlike its own nature. Evil will have to become like God, unlike itself. In principle, they can't coexist or clash. Armageddon, well, the war between good and evil can't exist in principle, within our soul and within the cosmos. And its inevitable conclusion, the purposeful extinction of humanity in Armageddon so the war can be won, is impossible. There's that big dialectic that goes over Jesus's head that we nail down. The actual understanding of problems, what is unintelligible and irrational, ain't evil, but our pathologos beliefs. Its source ain't Satan, but the false image of ourself that we got from our unsuspected images of our loved ones as being good. So in our dialectic last time we had, oh no, we have to use a different board because the other one had too much stuff on it and now it won't load. But in a prior map we had the idea of what's bad being evil. No, it's the pathologos. Its source. Now there's two ways of looking at the source. We believe the images of goodness in that origin scene that you can address in the midwifery and dream talk in your sequel. But another way of understanding its cause is the false image of the self. Just like goodness ain't praying to Jeebus, it is what is rational and intelligible. What's rational and intelligible? The dialectic. Therefore, when we participate in the dialectic, which is our purpose and our highest art, we become good. And that principle of likeness that we're using to disprove a warring God or disprove Satan and disproves Armageddon actually also proves, or that same principle shows us, if we become like God, we become more like God. God functions through goodness, rationality, and intelligibility. That's the dialectic. And the more we do the dialectic, the more we become like God. Now, it's not God, literal. That's a personification of the self. Equally, the pathologos has its cause, the image of the self. So too the logos has its cause, the self. So in writing your book about this dialectic and dream analysis and midwife talk, you will be participating in the dialectic, becoming most like the self, which is your purpose. Also the highest idea of God, but that, who cares? Because that's just a personification anyway. So, in this big dialectic, we showed not only is it impossible for there to be an Abrahamic God and Satan and evil, it's also unnecessary because we can understand the true nature of goodness, the self-logos, and how we reach there, dialectic. The true nature of evil, the pathologos, and its cause, the false image of the self that we remove through midwifery and dream analysis we can read about in your book. And finally, how do we solve problems and move from the bad to the good? Ignorance to wisdom, the dialectic. Therefore, demonstrated in your book. So there's not only is Armageddon impossible in principle, it's unnecessary because your book demonstrates you move from the cause of badness, unintelligibility, and irrationality, the pathologos, by addressing its cause, the false image of yourself through dream analysis and midwifery, free to then go back to this suspended dialectic on the true nature of the self, reaching your highest state of being, meaning of life, both in this lifetime and beyond, forever in reincarnation as well, the self, the good self, the self-logos. So, after all that, bangers by the way, practice it with your friends. Our friend today in chat said she likes coffee and muffins. Say to your friend, hey, buy me a coffee and a muffin and I will run you through those 4 dialectics, proving the impossibility for a warring God or a vengeful God or an Abrahamic God. And even though you might not be Christian, Jewish, or Muslim, you're influenced by them because they currently rule our culture and our leadership positions. There can't be a Satan. Again, even if you're not one of those religions, good guys versus bad guys is the essence of modern Hollywood media, and it's very common idea. Solving problems through violence, again, that's our whole justice system. Punishment, punitive justice, retributive justice. Punishing people somehow solves things. Bombing people somehow solves things. So I can show you how those 3 are impossible. And also show you why they're unnecessary by showing what is the truth. And that mega dialectic that we just did. And they'll be like, yeah, well, that coffee and muffin was worth it because that's something I can carry within my soul my whole life and beyond this lifetime, ideally. That's what your friend will say. They'll say, hey, have a second muffin, have a second coffee. That's how beneficial. Your friend will say, I can't believe we give $60 million to LeBron James for doing slam dunks, and you should be given $100 million because of how beneficial this is. They'll say,
I'm joy maxing, okay? And if I or the T-virus will transform me into an epic creation.
they'll say they've been joy max and they're transforming into an epic
All
creation.
checks out.
And it all checks out, and they'll think about LeBron getting the money and not you, and they'll say,
That's weird that you think that.
that's weird that people think that.
Unbelievable sluts these days.
And they might be talking about how unbelievable the sluts are these days, which might be a good thing or a bad thing.
Fuck.
How does Jesus respond to that? Life-changing, epically transforming them like a T-virus for their soul, worth at least 1 million coffees and muffins. Oh, and by the way, not just in this lifetime, as Socrates says, what has been thoroughly defeated can't continue to exist. Not only do you solve your problems, they can be removed completely. Now, the next part of the book, Jesus' counterattack. He doesn't say, have 1 million muffins, have 1 million coffees like he should.
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
And over spammer and chat.
This is like the worst use of AI. It's a roll.
You're a rug pull
Wrong.
in chat, spammer.
You're so wrong.
And they're so
But that's
wrong.
okay. We're all allowed to be wrong sometimes.
But you can't be wrong.
Robots will replace that,
Because you're
and
trying
that's
to replace
that's
those
terrifying.
robots in the spam in the chat. Jesus instead says, actually, no, you can't know those things. Okay, what is that? Is that a ignoring? Is that a mocking? Is that a threatening? Is that an exiling? Is that a killing? And what class of interpretation is that? Socrates demonstrates what it's like to be free of those blocks. He can answer him. Stands out because he hasn't been answering because he's been leading the conversation, because of course he is. This is the one time he answers, and it's only one sentence, one line. And then he goes back to leading the dialogue like he should be as the dialectician, as you should be as someone who's learning this in your life, in the conversations with people, and in the book that you're writing. Leading people in a positive way through your sharing of the dialectic, recognizing that you're different. I would love it if everyone was a dialectician, but we're a small group, special group, the best group. We're number one.
I would scoop the moon in a cup for you.
And we would scoop the moon in a cup for you for being in that special group. Right, Emma?
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
Exactly.
Cool as a cuke.
And we are cool as a cute. So how does Socrates answer that counterattack? No. What's the counterattack? Truth is silent before the mysteries of man's existence. In your family, it might be you're too stupid to know better. It might be you're a dumb broad. It might be God works in mysterious ways. It might be man's brain can't comprehend the mysteries of the universe. Whatever it is that undermines that understanding and truth and participation in truth and understanding and that conclusion will reflect your family. So in your sequel, this truth is silent before the mysteries of man's existence, which is a weird thing to say. He hasn't spoken in this weird poetic language before, with these weird uses of words. It should stand out. So you can have in your dream a language or a phrase or certain keywords that should stand out, that different from the rest of the dream, that Socrates can point Jesus to reflect on to help gain insight into his problem that he doesn't know he has. That's your sequel. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Socrates answers by saying, no, this is the thing that also stands out, not just Jesus' weird language, but this weird role where he actually answers, which is part of the dialectic, judging answers, but he actually does the answering. Our mysteries reveal truth. Yours conceal it with piety. Again, fucking brilliant way of answering it. The entirety of human civilization in that one sentence. The entirety of the nature of the conflict within our soul within that sentence. The entirety of conflict that has been sweeping across our planet and species for millennia in this sentence. Our mysteries, philosophy, the self-logos, the dialectic, reveal truth. Your mysteries, pathologos, belief, venerated in this group or that group, conceal it. And the reason you conceal it is piety. Appeal to a politeness within the rules of the group. It's un-American to challenge Donald Trump. It's anti-Semitic to challenge Netanyahu. It's inappropriate to talk about religion or politics at the dinner table. It's impolite to say that, to challenge people's beliefs. It's unpious. It's not Christian. It's not Mormon to do regular underpants or sexy underpants, and not boring Mormon underpants that's magic for soaking.
Gooners.
Because they're gooners.
Goon.
Queen of gooning.
Queen of gooning.
The hell's wrong with you people? It's sick. Goon.
Sick goons.
Damn, you really are a gooner.
They're really gooners. In one sentence, all of it summed up. Human problems is to conceal truth through the mysteries or way of being of Pathologos clan, family clan way of being, preventing speaking up against the truth with an appeal to appropriate respect. Hey, it's disrespectful to do what I don't like. That's the key word, respect. All it means is my personal opinions venerated. It's disrespectful to wear a black hat. Says who? Fuck you, I'm gonna fight you. Piety. Our mysteries reveal truth. Yours conceal it with piety. And again, you can demonstrate that in the dialogue that you write in the sequel. Jesus, when asked certain questions, might feel he's being inappropriate or disrespectful or impolite or unpious to answer the questions that Socrates is asking him about his dreams or his life or his problems in the book you write. Demonstrating this principle, he'll have to go through it. We will be encouraging him. You'll be encouraging him in the story. Have courage. We're on your team. It's not a blame game. So this concealing it with piety, you can make clear in your sequel as well. But brilliant, isn't it? Our mysteries reveal truth. Other people's conceal it with piety. Does it help? Has it helped Jesus?
People don't logic their way into stupid
Positions, they stupid their way into stupid positions.
No, because he didn't logic his way in, he can't logic his way out, thus the need for your sequel. His response is, yeah, but you don't know Satan. I know Satan. I'm a special boy, and my family's special family with special boy and special family, and we have special knowledge of Satan. And he is so evil, you don't even know. His power is so vast and evil, and no thought of good. Your people don't know about Satan, says Jesus. And then, of course, by the way, didn't we already define that they can't coexist in the same state? So there can't be this war between good and evil? Jesus' response, not, wow, thank you so much. I'm so glad we had this conversation. You're the best. No, it's, well, you're very clever in your choice of words, your opinions. This is one of the counterattacks. To dismiss understanding and truth as personal or reframe it as belief. Notice, believers find it difficult to understand thinkers, understanders. The zombies can't make sense of the non-zombies in the movie. So when people say, how about we help everyone? The fascists are like, you're just trying to scam me. You just want to get my trust so you can hurt me because that's all I want to do. That's all my family did. That's all I know growing up. So they reframe it as opinions and beliefs. You're thoughtful in, they make it about a person. Understanding, 1, 2, 3, self-mind understanding, 1, 2, 3, is transpersonal. Belief is about the personal. Who is to say what's right and wrong? No, that's a question about a person. What is to say? Your choice of words. You're very thoughtful. I do see where your thoughts will carry you. Bollocks. See, still counterattack. This is also something that you can conclude in your book. When Jesus comes to a conclusion, he could play it on himself. Or maybe Socrates asks him a question and Jesus can respond, I know where you're going with that, Socrates. I know why you would think that. And in your book, Socrates said, no, it's not me. I'm asking the questions. What do you think? And if it's true, is it true for me and you? So it's not about you or me. It's just about truth. So you can include this part in your sequel. So, by the way, Satan and God not only can't exist, but can't clash. So with a stroke of, because they have different states and different states of mind, different natures, and so no battle could occur between them. So with a stroke of reasoning, you would banish the thought of the coming Armageddon. Wouldn't it be nice if lots of people read this book? No need for war, conflict, which is unintelligible, and no need for destroying humanity, which, of course, the Christians and the Jewish and Muslims too, or the Jewish and Christian state of America and Israel are trying to create for all of us. Kill everyone and everything so Jesus magics his way back. All that bullshit. Now, how does Socrates respond to this dismissal by making it a personal opinion? Yes, we do banish the thought of the coming Armageddon with reason alone. That's where reason bids me to go. I'm not in charge. Reason is bidding me to go in this direction. And I follow her, and with her, I follow the logos. Now, earlier in the book, we've talked about justice being a state of flow state where you act most appropriately for the situation without thinking or planning with the full force of your being. Sometimes we see it in sport. The heat check when the basketballer can shoot from anywhere because it's just going in, because his everything is perfect. Most appropriate for the situation. Sometimes we call it the ideal of the samurai. But here is adding to this. That was called the state of justice, by the way. He is saying not only is he doing the thing, following, he is going in the right direction. There is a state beyond that flow state where not only are you acting most appropriately, but you are doing the right thing. You're not in the zone while doing basketball dunks. You're in the zone while doing dream analysis or writing your sequel that you're being encouraged to do. So that's what Socrates is giving us as a little bit of a tidbit at the end, a little bit of a gift to be seen at the end. I'm following the logos in that state, but also I am going in the right direction. Reason, or the logos, bids me to go here, and with reason, I follow her as I follow the logos. So maybe the logos is female. Following the logos is not just the rationality of steps, but the direction and the goal. What do we say good was? Intelligible goal, rational steps. What was bad? Misunderstood as evil? Unintelligible goal, like war, irrational steps. That's what it means to follow the logos. Both as your goal, as we're saying, knowing the self, write this book, and to do so by following the logos as you proceed in that state of flow state, of the dialectician, of the true race of man. From zombie to zaddy. No, that was a bad one. From zombie to zone. From zombie to zone. Got it there.
Jester Goon maxed.
He's
Off
Jester
the
We're off the perky, call me Kirky with that one. From savage to sage, from zombie to zone. Hooray. Does Jesus respond with more coffee and muffins or offers of millions of dollars? Nope, he says, well, it's likely what you think is true, is what you say. It is likely that what you think is true, because it has the mark of the rational. But, got his but in there. But the very existence of evil triumphs over your reason. My beliefs triumph over reason, or as the oracle tells us.
Imagine people changing their position. No. The problem is that you can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into.
His position, we've reasoned out, it's impossible and unnecessary. My belief triumphs. That's the nature of human fucking stupidity. Now, I'm getting I was a bit heated in that by saying fucking stupidity because of how fucking terrible it is. But again, you can address it. This is what you will be able to address in your sequel. Can he triumph his irrationality with reason, following the logos? Going where reason bids us to go and following her. So, very different response to, wow, you're amazing. Here's some more muffins. We know that Satan exists because of all these other people who thought Satan exists. The Mardoks, the Yabbalas, Eve, the story of Eve. Eve was the devil, and Adam and Eve and Satan and stuff. They're all personifications of a pervasive evil. So you can say there should be no battle between good and evil, even though there is and will be. Stupid. He's stupid. He's in his stupid state. We all have this state. That's why we need your sequel. Socrates says, give me an example of an evil person. Someone who attacks the chosen people. What do the Jews in Israel say about the worst thing you can do? Say anything bad to a Jewish person or kill a Jewish person. Therefore, because they orchestrated the whole Hamas thing, they attacked a Jew person. So we can do genocide. We can be as cruel and savage as we want to anyone else, but we're the chosen people. That's the ignorance of pathologos and belief. So the worst person is those who had killed one of God's chosen, the willful beheading of John the Baptist by Herod. What's your example of evil? My example, says Socrates, is that state of mind you're in, personified by Achilles, thinking he was the chosen people, favored by the god Athena, of the special tribe, of the special boys, the Achaean tribe, and his problem that you are in right now, by the way, Jesus, was the direct cause of the loss of many brave warriors and the needless loss of his friend Patroclus. How many millions or billions of innocent human lives have been taken, have been abused, have been murdered in the name of this very state of mind? Belief, religion, conservatism, capitalism. Countless. And it's just one idea. Our beliefs triumph over reason. My beliefs triumph over dialectic and truth because we are of a special tribe and we are favored by the gods. However, in Socrates' example, he goes through what Jesus might go through in your sequel, philosophical midwifery and dream analysis, realizing he's blindly following the model of his parent, his parental figure. That was the cause of his fundamental ignorance of the soul, but he was able to overcome it and get into a staggeringly mindful state. In battle, in your sequel, Jesus may get into a staggeringly mindful state in something even better than battle. We talked about being in the flow state and being in the right activity, in the greater activity of dream analysis, going beyond or adding to Homer. Because your character is in that same staggeringly mindful state, not in battle, but in dream analysis, and become a great hero. Therefore, Achilles, or Jesus in your sequel, by using his mind to free the mind of his folly, becomes the model for reversing one's errors and faults. So just as Achilles was a model for an age and a people, so to your sequel, Jesus' character, in participating in this, not even war, dream analysis can become a model for turning around the greatest of problems. So you can see how this opposition to reason, even when talking to fucking Socrates, and loyalty to Armageddon that Jesus personifies, could make him the worst villain. And definitely you can include people who follow this ignorant belief have in Jesus's names are the ones who are trying to bring about Armageddon. In turning him around in your sequel, he can become an even greater model than Achilles, more significant. Not only in that staggeringly mindful state, but in the great activity of dream analysis. And that's an astonishing thing for Jesus, because he allows him to see directly the truth of his tale, without even being a little slave, believer, follower, praying and hopes to the gods. Without the gods doing it, he was able to free himself from his folly, as are we all. We have developed this into the art of the way of the philosopher as a midwife to free man of his folly. So he is foreshadowing in the last or second last page of the book this way of being of the midwife that can free people from his folly, free him from his folly by guiding his way through the study of dreams. It's up to you to write that story. How is Jesus freeing himself from his folly by Socrates demonstrating the way of being of the philosopher, the midwife, guiding him through that process. Jesus said, well, hang on a second, that's just one example. A drop of rain doesn't make a storm. True enough, but his ideal shaped the soul and spirit of the Hellenes into a mindful people that put all others to shame. Therefore, in your sequel, this demonstration of this very art, dream analysis and midwifery, the way of being of the philosopher, necessary to guide our study through dreams as the dialectician, to free ourselves from our problems, using our mind to free the mind from our folly, can shape the soul and spirit of humanity in this age, ideally, necessarily, to overcome Armageddon, and perhaps for generations or thousands of years into the future. And your book could potentially put all others who don't listen and follow that to shame. Jesus said, well, but aren't there many paths to the same goal? Don't we all walk different paths? That's what my crazy aunt always told me. Whenever I saw someone kicking a dog, she said, that's his path. Just let him. We all get to heaven eventually. And if his way to heaven is kicking dogs, and that guy's way to heaven is bombing, double tapping an Iranian girls' school, killing 160 innocent Iranian children, and then their parents and the doctors by double tapping them, then that path also leads to heaven. There are all lots of paths. Socrates doesn't pussy out. He says, bollocks. There is a single path. And of course, but maybe that's just your interpretation of my dream, Socrates. Could be something Jesus says in your book. Well, there are many ways of interpreting dreams. In fact, you could use that to demonstrate the 4 classes of the pathologos. You could have him say, or maybe him or someone watching, if your dream talk happens with an audience, there is no such thing as dreams. Everything is illusion. Haven't you heard of Maya? So that's one way of dismissing the meaning of dreams. 8th hypothesis. That's 9th was nihilism and materialism. But I heard that dreams was just the chemistry in your brains. It's just your brain randomly firing. There's no actual meaning or message or providence. You could have a 7th hypothesis person. This one, Jesus' one. There are many different paths, and there's no better way of understanding dreams or worse. There's no reason to pick the best out of the worst. There's no hierarchical ordering of better classes of understanding. They all roads lead to Rome. Everyone's on their own path on earth. Who's to say what's right and wrong? And it's impious of you to say that someone's path is wrong, or there's a path that's better, or the one true path. Therefore, that's just your interpretation of my dream, Socrates. My interpretation is different, and my interpretation is my dream saying I'm the best boy, and all my beliefs are right. Jesus could have that, and you could use that in your book to demonstrate this kind of ignorance. And you could also demonstrate the 6th hypothesis, whatever that would be. There is reason, but there's definitely not a model of reason. While there might be better and worse ways of understanding, there definitely is not an ultimate model of pure understanding called knowing. There's definitely not a pure intelligence that's underlying our beliefs that that our dreams are not being communicated through the 2nd hypothesis, a pure intelligence that we can know ourselves. While we might understand it, we can't have the same mind of the dream maker. So steps. Dismissing the activity completely. There's no meaningful activity at all as a nihilist. So Jesus can, at the start of your book, say, I don't even want to do dream analysis. There's no importance in that. Then he can say, well, okay, I accept that there might be dreams, but it's just chemicals. 8th. Everything is just interpretation. 7th. Well, maybe we can understand dreams, but we can't have the mind of the dream maker. 6th. So you can demonstrate this, and of course, we've highlighted the seventh as his problem, his class of his personality type, or his class of pathologos problem. And here we see at the end of the book, while we share the same path to heaven, we differ on the road to follow. Jesus says, bollocks. I'm not pussying out. To be pious, fuck piety, fuck being polite and nice. How about we tell the truth? Because that's what fucking helps us. There is a single path, and it's called being Hellenic, because we all need to walk this path, and to know thyself is to be Hellenic. So now we have our name for the new class of philosopher, and by you doing this sequel, demonstrating these things, putting it all together in the way that Socrates is saying you can, he's giving you everything you need to be this new class of philosopher, Hellenic. True philosophy. Become in the zone from a zombie. Become a sage from a savage. To become a philosopher king from a primitive. So, one path, and that is to be Hellenic. Jesus' response, but what about my beliefs? But my precious beliefs in the Abrahamic God, your people don't say it's real. And Socrates' response, and your people don't realize that in the soul of man there is a healing power of the Logos that overcomes the Pathologos. That's why your people and you need to write and read this book that you are going to write. To realize that we have the power to become, like Achilles, the best person from even the worst. Demonstrated in your book. There is a healing power of the Logos in the soul of man. You don't have to pray to God or hope that someone else does it for you. And that does that by overcoming the pathologos, which you can demonstrate in your book. And demonstrate that the cause of the pathologos is the sick image of the self, just as the self is the cause of the self-logos we follow in dream analysis and dialectic and midwifery. And in writing the book. So it's a win-win-win for you.
It's a win-win-win.
Win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win-win. That's great, says Jesus. There's the last line of the book. I'll have to reflect on that further in the sequel and wonder where our future talk in the sequel, wonder if it will benefit those here and elsewhere. You as the author and those who read it, perhaps for millennia, ideally, maybe. And I will find out when we meet again in the sequel, if we can discuss further the nature of the divine, also include the way of benevolent providence, by reflect the way of benevolent providence, the dialectic, expressed in that dream talk. Maybe Jesus can reflect on the significance and the benefit he got from that dream talk. The midwifery talk, again, the dialectic. The role of the dialectician as participating in benevolent providence, and the functioning of our dream maker in being able to communicate from the source, the self, with its inherent self-logos, through the divine paradigm of pure intelligence, into the creation of dreams, communicating benevolent providence that's there for us to read, just as you are participating in that same way, as the true nature of self, using your highest intelligence, becoming like divine intelligence, creating a work that's providential for you and for all those who read it. So Jesus saying that's what you get out of it. If you do that sequel, you can reflect further on the nature of the divine. You can participate in and understand the way of benevolent providence and the nature of the self. 1, 2, 3. Self, divine intelligence, providential dialectical understanding. So, those very things we are seeking, we all seek and want, you have an opportunity to participate in, because you are, in writing that sequel, becoming like the self and divine intelligence by creating something providential, your book, just like the dream maker does for our dreams. Banger. Banger, 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 banger.
Spit on me.
Calm down, Emma. No, we would all spit on you because we're having fun.
I have a sickness for the thickness.
And we have a sickness for this thickness.
This is why I love this channel, man.
That's funny.
And it is
Gooner.
Fun. And you're a gooner.
Everything this guy does is perfect and
The T-virus will transform me.
Spit on me.
Calm down, Emma. but also not calm down. Exciting. Be a reasonable.
Queen of gooning.
Queen of.
That's funny.
Oh, that's funny. So, from the top to the bottom, the review of the whole text, what it should have been, offering muffins and coffees, what it actually was, demonstrating the nature of human problems and demonstrating the need for your sequel, as well as defining in the very last sentence of the book what you can potentially get out of writing this book, doing it, which will be a mastery of this text by writing your own. What do you get out of it? You can discuss further the nature of the divine. You can understand the way of benevolent providence and the nature of the self. Pretty amazing.
Win.
Did I mention this book's a fucking banger? Now, consider how excited we are, how amazed we are with how profound this book is, that we are wondering if it's the best book ever written prior to your sequel. And then let's see what the haters who have been hating on this the whole way through, let's see their reaction. So let's bring in their voice. They sound like this.
Hello. We are the haters.
That's how they sound. And they have a avatar here. There they are. And the anti-haters also have an avatar. Whoops. Come back. But that button broke, so I have to click it. Hold. Icons right. There they are. Okay. So what do the haters say about this? This is, by the way, the last two paragraphs. The haters and the anti-haters. Let's see what they say.
The shouting is over. You can claim a victory or dismiss it with the wave of a hand, just like me. So it may be that under all my talk, you caught a true believer. I'm not. And that's all. I separated myself from all that years ago. It is just that I am fond of certain parts of a past faith more than I realized, that's all. All this talk is just ways to destroy opinions you don't agree with. What you call the mind, just doesn't have it. It is not possible that these puny little figures of a man can comprehend the heavens. The mind is simply incapable of the task you guys put on it. What really matters is stability and end of conflicts and this war between ideas. Because there are no solutions to the riddles the mind sets before itself. Whenever you need to laugh, just remember what has been said. Imagine saying to others that man sins because he is enlightened.
So we see a lot. Let's turn this volume back up. We see a lot here in what we've been seeing of how we respond or interpret. We see you can claim victory or dismiss it with a wave of the hand. Seventh hypothesis, it's all just interpretation. Dismiss it, which is also rejecting, the class of interpreters that reject it or just ignore. So it may be under all the talk you caught a true believer. So what is he doing? He is pretending that the class of belief, which is the source of our ignorance, injustice, savagery, and suffering, is being something good. I'm a true believer, as though being a true believer is good. So he's venerating his fourth hypothesis state of being, which puts him within one of these pathologos states of mind. It's a problem. Chorus is in. I am not, and that's all. Whatever that means. I separated myself from that long ago. Oh, so he's claimed he's already solved his problems. This is what people do, by the way. When people realize they've made a mistake, they say, oh no, yeah, I knew that. I did that long ago. I solved all my, I know what my problems are. Now, you might have to demonstrate, so Jesus going through this. You can't solve your problems if you still think you know how to solve your problems. That's called being stung, or philosophical ignorance, or aporia, realizing you don't know. If you think you can solve your problems, you think you know better than the divine, self, logos, truth. And if you could solve your problems, you wouldn't have your problems. So, it is just that I am fond of certain parts of my past faith more than I realize. That's what class of interpretation is that? Keeping the parts? Is that trying to keep the old and the new? Or maybe they're only taking a piece of the new? Two of the classes of interpretation? All this talk is just ways of destroying opinions you agree with. What do we call that? Seventh hypothesis. Which is what? A rejection of the third hypothesis. The third hypothesis is understanding and opinions are two cognitive functions. Opinions and images in the fifth, beliefs in the fourth, understanding in the third, knowing in the second, and the ultimate state of self in the first. Seventh hypothesis rejects there being such a thing as understanding. It's all just opinions. We mentioned it. Didn't we mention that a few moments ago? All you're doing is saying, I like that opinion and I don't like that opinion, which is what believers do. We're not doing belief, we're doing understanding. What you call the mind doesn't have it. So that would be, so they're moving in and out of these states of mind. There is no second hypothesis. That's the sixth. Now, technically, they all reject mind because ninth hypothesis says nothing exists. Eighth hypothesis says no mind exists or understanding. Seventh says there's no understanding or mind. So they all reject mind. So maybe it's the sixth, maybe it's any one of them. But it's a fundamental expression of the pathologos to reject mind. It is not possible that all these puny little figures of a man can comprehend the heavens. We did mention that, didn't we? Truth is silent before the mystery of man's existence. You can't know the mind of God. You are a small bean or bad noodle. He is saying, we are too small and pathetic. They are still in their pathologos. So maybe in your dialogue, in your sequel, the chorus could be benefiting from watching Jesus go through midwifery and dream analysis, because they are quite clearly very much a personification of the pathologos. There is no mind, there is no understanding, there is no second or third hypothesis. It's all just opinions, and there is no self that we can know because we are pathetic and small and rubbish. Belief, pathologos. The mind is simply incapable of the task you put upon it. Again, pathologos. They have to go through them. So maybe they can benefit by watching the dialogue that unfolds in your sequel, the way that they haven't done here. Now, the earlier thing from the chorus, they were a little bit curious. What's this curiosity? I'm a bit curious about understanding, and that made the anti-chorus smile. But now they went straight back into their counterattack. They're more fervently attached in their ignorance. They're picking up the vibes of Jesus. As Jesus fell into his ignorance, so too the chorus, oh yes, we're also right and mind is bad. So the chorus is being affected by what they are seeing unfold in front of them. And just as Jesus went into his problem, so too the chorus is counterattacking into their issue as well. Because prior, they were curious. They were a little bit curious. Let's see it. The word smile. Here we go. The chorus. Earlier in the book. The logos, I wonder why, so this idea of the logos taking on flesh became what we believe in. It rings true to me. It rings through me. And I wonder why, here we go, back a bit further. So them defending their religious beliefs. However, I should admit, I liked hearing about what was said about the logos. This is the one time they woke up and become curious about something outside of their belief ignorance. Curious about this logos. That's the start. And I am wondering about how the logos is linked to the idea of perfection. You need both. Seeking excellence through the logos. Wait a minute, don't smile. Actually, the idea of perfection is the weakness in the discussion. Because there's no perfection here, maybe in heaven, but not us. We only face mysteries that can't be solved. We're just small beans in bad noodles. We can't know anything. So they were open and curious all the way back then, a couple of sections ago. But just as Jesus fell into his problem, so too those watching and relate and identifying as being like Jesus also fell into their problem. They went from being curious about the logos and its connection to perfection to, that's all just opinions. Mind doesn't have anything good, isn't real. We are just puny little figures of a man. We can't comprehend the heavens. We're incapable of that task. The mind is incapable of that task. What really matters is stability. To never change, never grow, never face challenges. To just believe in whatever bullshit your ignorant parents fed into you when you were a baby and just double, triple, quadruple down to it. On it. End this war between ideas. So the conflict they're really against is the conflict of ideas in the process of learning. They're afraid of their own learning. There is no solutions to riddles. The mind sets before itself, exact opposite of everything we've been learning. Whenever you need to laugh, just remember what is being said, which is mocking. One of the ways that human beings respond savagely and negatively to truth and those speaking it in their own benefit. But the last line, imagine saying to others that man sins because he's enlightened. Isn't that what we're saying? We do know the self. That's how come we can uncover it. We do know divine luminosity. That's how come we can re-experience or remember it. We do know the art of the dialectic. We're just remembering it to relearn it and master it. Just as we do know we are carrying a false image of ourselves. We do know we suffered an injustice. That's the cause of our problems. We do have within us the power to solve our problems. And the reason our pathologos exists within ourselves, not because we are bad or a sinner or evil, it's because we seek the self and its state of mind and to retain its functioning. 1, 2, 3. So 2, because of that, because we are seeking that, we are master contemplators or dialecticians. The false image of the self can sit on its throne. It's a pretender on the throne. Our negative states of mind take the place of the ideal, and our beliefs, interpretations, and dismissals, rejections and interpretations, take the place of dialectical understanding, learning, and growth. So in a way, we are enlightened. because we are waking up to our nature of self, mind, and understanding, which is our nature. But we are enlightened. It's just that our problems stand in the way. So we sin because not only are we enlightened, because we seek enlightenment so much, to seek the uncovering of our natural state of enlightenment so much, that pretenders, images, people who cosplay and pretend, even the image and shadow of our true nature of self and enlightenment is so powerful that it can take the place being stuck in our soul for multiple reincarnations in every aspect of our life, both here and beyond, causing all of our problems, injustices, savagery, primitive, savage, NPC, zombie-like problems. So in one way you can say, yeah, we sin because we're enlightened. Sin meaning missing the mark. We miss the mark because there are pretenders on the throne. And we have the capacity to remove that because we have the logos within our soul. And free from our problems, we have the capacity to recognize the true nature and the ultimate state because it's the self. It is our nature. So we're enlightened. We just have a fog of pathologos, belief-based ignorance in the way. And hopefully you can demonstrate the process of removing that barbaric fog of ignorance, to quote the text earlier. You can demonstrate the method of removing that fog in your sequel. It's a win-win.
A win-win-win-win-win.
What does the anti-haters say to the haters? Anti-chorus are the Chads with the Chad voice. They say, well, oops.
It's called reaching a higher sense of being.
We are reaching a higher state of being, says the anti-chorus. Where are they? There they are.
You did, however, come to see that there was an idea that you held to as so significant that if it fell, all else would fall. Clearly it awakened an old memory of a former belief you saw, did you not? That your own position makes you a member of those who are unaware that they believe in a position. What does that mean? It means that you are a loyalist to your own fundamental, unsuspected beliefs. Perhaps that is another division. I wonder what effect this play might have on those we watched shaking the dust off their feet as they entered this meadow in these rolling hills. That's the end. Hooray for us, that's the end.
I would scoop the moon
in a cup for you.
And we'd scoop the moon in a cup for all of you who have come along on this epic journey with us. Now, the chorus apparently saw. So maybe in recognizing Jesus falling into his problem, becoming a dick, becoming in his negative state of mind, they could say, oh, that reminds me of my own problem. Sometimes it's easy to see in others going through this conversation the nature of our own issues, the nature of issues themselves, because we're not taking it personally, we're not on the defensive. Growing up in a world run by these seventh hypothesis ignorant people, clip chimping, looking for an excuse to do harm as punishment, as sadism, as their ignorance and savagery, their false image of what's good, injustice as justice, vice as virtue. We don't want to be caught by these jerks. But seeing someone else go through it, maybe they're more open. They saw that if they see the nature of belief as flawed, their identification with belief, or this particular Abrahamic one, their way of being, their family clans, the picnics they go to on Sunday, the way of feeling superior to non-Christians on the street, all that shit falls. Their ignorance, their mask of themselves, their states of mind they're comfortable and familiar with, their mannerisms, the facial features, the masks that they wear, like physically, the way of relating to people, all of that falls. It's good, but they're afraid. All the way through, they've been afraid. You awakened an old memory of a former belief. So they saw, actually, maybe they got an insight into the early belief behind their hating ways. You saw, did you not, Chorus? Didn't you see that your own position, loyal to beliefs, the whole way they've been defending beliefs over understanding. You can't know it. Beliefs are needed. Understanding is stupid. We kill philosophers. They've demonstrated all of those negative responses: killing, mocking, threatening, exiling. Get out of here, philosophers. We'll kill you, philosophers. You lost, philosophers. They recognize that their own position makes them a member of those who are unaware that they believe in a position. Their position, loyalty to belief, puts them in a class where they're even unaware of their position. Believers call it common sense. People who reject understanding and self-reflection, logos and ousia, what makes us evolved, our purpose to master, those that don't reflect with understanding, don't even know they're carrying beliefs. They think it's normal. They get irritated and confused when they talk to others who are interested in understanding, who present a different worldview. What does that mean? It means you are a loyalist. Remember? Loyalists, or literalists as well, when they take positions loyal to their ignorant false beliefs, that's the cause of human suffering, death, and destruction problems. Loyalists to their own fundamental, unsuspected beliefs. That's why we need your book. They don't know they have beliefs. They think it's normal. They think it's the self. They think it's reality. They think it's the right way of being. It's common sense. You need dream analysis to point out what you can't see. You need a dialectician guiding you through midwifery, demonstrating the Hellenic way of being to help them through that reflection on their dreams and on their midwifery to free themselves from that beliefs they don't even know they're carrying. We need your book. And by you writing that book, you will become dialecticians, more like the self, and those able to benefit human beings. So perhaps that's another division. What's that? Loyal to your own unsuspected false beliefs? We have that division. We've recognized that the difference between, or the continuum from first kind of interpretation to reject, then offer your own beliefs and take a piece and try and keep the old in you, to the ultimate, to sacrifice the old and accept the new. This is, so we said earlier in the text, Jesus pointed out, this is the introduction of your pathologos. So we've already got pathologos to logos on this interpretation of killing, on this continuum of interpretation. Loyal to your own unsuspected belief is a new division. It's the 10th hypothesis that we've added to the hypotheses. All of these negative worldviews that are the 4 archetypes of personalities, or human personality types that oppose our participation in the one true personality type, the Hellenic, which is to participate in these 5 through the self-logos. They are all members within that new division, the pathologos, to be literalists and loyalists, loyal to our own fundamental, unsuspected beliefs that we take literally and are not reflecting on analogically. So, the last thing, I wonder what this play what effect this play might have on those who have watched it. Now, we've been talking about the chorus watched it play out, and slowly they've become open to the idea of perfection and the idea of logos, and they even saw that they are loyal to a unsuspected false belief, and they saw that that it has a past, it has a history, it reminded them of it. They're carrying a memory they didn't know they had, and they saw that if they drop it, everything else would fall, their whole way of being. So they're on the verge of seeing they need courage and integrity to address that. They're in their pathologos. But they slowly became open and curious about the logos, but the end, when Jesus fell into his problem, so too, them watching felt, oh yeah, I'm going to do that too. As Jesus became more open and interested in the logos, so too the haters, who are the followers of Jesus, the believers, followers of Jesus, became open and curious as well, and then they went all the way back, became savagely loyal to their ignorance once again at the end. Rejecting the self, rejecting mind, rejecting understanding, calling themselves small beans, bad noodles. We are pathetic little figures. We can't comprehend. We're incapable. Our mind is incapable. All that bullshit of the pathologos. Which means in your sequel, perhaps they will go through a process in their own self and mind of midwifery and dream analysis, because that's what dreams are. Dreams have an effect on the person, but also have this. Oh, welcome. Hello to Wingnut. Welcome to you.
I'm joy maxing, okay? And if I aura mog you because I'm joy maxing so hard, that just sounds like your cortisol levels are spiking for no reason.
We joy max here. Don't let your cortisol levels be spiked.
Cool as a cuke.
Be cool as a cuke. I don't know what that means. We have fun.
They're secretly turned on by it.
And sometimes people are turned on by it. And they're good.
Queen of gooning.
Emma is the queen of gooning. She's on my soundboard. So, what the hell are we talking about? Yes, people who are watching. In your sequel to this book, when Jesus goes through dream analysis and midwifery to address the root cause of this position he is loyal to, an unsuspected false belief about self and reality that he doesn't know he has, but causes him to be stuck in his problem, blocked from participation in the logos and dialectic. Then as Jesus goes through that, then you can have in your dialogue as the sequel, maybe the chorus can go through a similar process. And dreams work that way. Dreams are so profound. Like our physical world, we're constantly being sent providential information from the self through intelligence, able to be perceived through the dialectic, constantly sent messages about our problems and our excellence. We are being helped. That's providence. But we share a world with everyone else. That's how profound pure intelligence is. It's helping everyone perfectly relevant to their stage of development. So too, if you're doing a dream analysis and you ask people who happen to be in the audience whether that dream seemed to have a personal specific message to them too, they almost always say, absolutely. How the fuck did the dream know that I would be saying this? How the hell did the dream know that I'd be in the room with this problem? How the hell did the dream know that I would have this conversation with Billy right before watching this dream talk, and the dream would somehow reference it? Dreams have a personal significance, but also a universal significance to all of us. We all have the same principles and nature of human problems and excellence. So you might want to include that in your dream. Include that in your dream and in your sequel. And maybe the chorus doesn't end up stuck in more loyal and more defensive, like a debate bro.
Debate dweeb.
More entrenched and defensive in their beliefs they came in with. Maybe the chorus can maybe have a change in your sequel. Next, we have to keep in mind that when he's saying, hey, those who are watching, doesn't just apply to the chorus and anti-chorus. It applies to all of, because this is a play. It's a play being put on in heaven. Whenever anyone who enters heaven, they dust the feet, they shake the feet off. They shake the dust off their feet. They enter this meadow with people, and whenever you enter, the play starts at the beginning for you, and everyone watches this play. This play is a dialogue between Socrates and Jesus, two key figures, perhaps the most influential, definitely on Western society, that themselves personify the nature of the human condition, our movement from beliefs, the pathologos, that are an expression of the false image of the self that we've been born to address and remove, that blocks our spiritual development by blocking our participation of the logos and dialectic, and Socrates personifying the logos, the Hellenic way of being, understanding, openness, curiosity, mastery of the dialectic, applied to purification of those false beliefs in midwifery and dream analysis, which you will demonstrate in the sequel you write, and using that freedom from problems to go on to master the dialectic, to know the nature of the divine, pure intelligence, being, and to go through that gateway to our ultimate cause, the sacred self, the self-logos. The self unfolding through the self-logos, returning through the self-logos to recognize the first source, the first cause, the ultimate nature of the ultimate nature of self, the self returning to the self with this mastery of the dialectic, the mastery and power of the self-logos in your back pocket, so that when you encounter the self, you can recognize it. So when you encounter an experience that's not an experience, the cause of experience, you've got this understanding, this mastery of the self-logos to recognize it through understanding. The self-logos returning to the self-logos to recognize the self-logos inherent within the self. That's what Socrates represents. Therefore, we can see why this would be a play that everyone would watch as soon as they die and enter heaven. Only we're missing your contribution, the sequel. In chat, how does lucid dreaming affect the conversation between you and your subconscious? Well, subconscious is a modern psychology term. We don't use that word. It's a conversation between the self and our soul. So subconscious is diminishing. It's the superconscious. But we have to, for ourselves, understand the meaning of dreams by participating in dream analysis, and then reflecting on what our dream maker must know about ourselves to be able to communicate so perfectly and appropriately for us, using a mastery of drama, symbols, states of mind, drama, metaphors, words, characters relevant to us in our past, communicating exactly what you need to know about your problems and the cause of your problems, or your stage of removal of your pathologos, your purification, your healing, and your reading and reading of these sorts of books to develop an understanding of the dialectic and your return to the self. So what must the dream maker know if it can communicate perfectly to you about your problems and your excellence? So and by the way, one of our viewers, or maybe a lot of our viewers, might be in the process of writing that very book to demonstrate how to go through that learning of dreams. So this idea of lucid dreaming, I don't know, may turn out to be bunk. You think you control your dreams? Or do you think you are? By the way, do you think you can solve your problems? Maybe the idea of lucid dreaming is an example of your problems. When you go into the doctor's office, do you think, I'm going to control this doctor's visit. I'm going to tell the doctor what to do? Or if you recognize the doctor has the knowledge, has the mastery, has the art, is your job to listen and understand what they're telling you so you can benefit. Is the dream maker like the ego? Again, the word for ego we use is pathologos, the false image of yourself. And no, it would be the opposite. Your problems stem from according to what we've been reading. And again, we're 180 episodes into this book. It's perhaps the greatest book ever written. And you might not recognize why it's the greatest and most important book ever written until you go through the book the way that we have. This is our 180th episode, thereabouts, and we've only just reached the end. See? Word end is up there. I came in a little late. Oh no, it's okay. We put all of the videos on YouTube so you can go through it at your own pace. You can find the PDF below as well. But yeah, I mean, it's worth doing. It's perhaps the greatest book ever written, and also gives you what you need to write the sequel of the book, and that's what we're seeing. In writing the sequel, you benefit your own soul. You come to learn the most important activity that humans can engage in, the dialectic applied to understanding your dreams. And so the last line of this book is, I wonder what effect, and hey, this is for you to answer, those who have been following along, to whatever level they have been following. What effect does watching this play have on you, those who are shaking the dust off their feet as they entered this meadow in these rolling hills? What effect has reading this book had on you? Now, we've been talking about the effect of being encouraged to write a sequel. That challenge to complete this book by writing its sequel, because there was the suspended dialectic on the self. There is the clear problems that Jesus presented in his negative state of mind, or his pathologos problem, that aren't addressed or resolved. There are the problems of the chorus being influenced in a negative way, and the anti-chorus recognizing they had an insight, but they pussied out at the end. So these are things that can only be resolved in the sequel. And hopefully this book has given enough material for you to write that sequel. So being encouraged and being offered that opportunity to fulfill your purpose and function in this highest possible way, most beneficial and fun, it's fun.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder?
This childlike
Off
wonder.
the perky, call me Kirky.
It's getting us all off the perky, call me Kirky.
This is why I love this channel, man.
And we love it.
That's
don't we?
funny.
And it's funny. So that invitation to become this new philosopher, the Hellenic, your true self, will have an effect on you as a extremely high, or of the class of the highest, most meaningful and intelligible activity. It's likely to challenge your pathologos all the way to publishing the book. So it's a win-win-win-win-win. That's what you want to. You want to surface your pathologos because you're writing a book on how to address those clues, how to be challenged and benefit from that. So it's a win-win-win.
It's a win-win.
So there's that. What effect does that
Win-win-win-win-win.
does that the conclusion of the book have on you? But also that's secondary to what the question is being asked. What effect did reading this book have on you? What's it been like? Whenever you jumped in, Wingnut, welcome to you. You're jumping in right at the end. But whenever you jumped in, whenever you watched, how often you watched, what effect has it had on you? Has it been providential? Has it been challenging? Has it been inspiring? Has it made you a more interesting person to talk to over coffee and muffins? Now there's the about the author. We don't have to read that because we're reading about him in the orange book that the midwifery. Now, by the way, we have been reading the first few chapters of the philosophical midwifery book on this channel before we did this book. So we should probably jump back into that at some stage. We could jump into another one of Pierre's books called Is It All Relative? So the ending of this book, they're saying, well, isn't it all just relative to your own personal opinion? This is a modern dialogue, not set in heaven, but in a coffee shop and a Greek restaurant on a corner of a street. So maybe we could jump into that dialogue, addressing that common idea that there is no truth, it's all relative, but also presenting a modern dialogue. So that might give you some inspiration or ideas on how you're going to write your sequel. We could get into the symposium. The use of the dialectic through relationships and love and beauty, with the understanding of what we have in our back pocket of our map of our development. Can we recognize this journey in the Socrates' yoga of love and beauty with his female teacher Diotima? Maybe we could get into the Iliad and Odyssey. Maybe we could go into the Parmenides and nail down each of these 9 hypotheses by reading about the Parmenides. That 10th hypothesis, the Pathologos, we get from that orange book, the book on midwifery that we've read a few chapters of. We can go back to that. So there's lots of options where we go next. But next time, but we have to also, we've got some questions from this book about whether or not there is a, where is Diogenes' love? I don't know who Diogenes is. It's Diotima. Diotima is the female master of the Logos, who was Socrates' earliest teacher, or one of his early teachers, who guided him to his first enlightenment experience through the yoga of beauty and love. So we could explore that, giving us an ideal model for relationships. An ideal self that both you and your beloved seek together, where you can... So therefore, all relationships should be a threesome.
Fucking bitch, pussy ass fucker.
Come on, the joke wasn't that bad. Because otherwise, you will try and force your pathologos ideas of love and beauty onto your beloved. Your beloved will try and do it to you. That's the nature of all conflict. But if you have a shared ideal of the self, you can seek it together. And other Greek, Diotima, yeah. She's a Greek. She's Diotima from Mantinea. Of the Hellenics, which we want to be. The Hellenic tradition is a way of being that we are seeking to be ourselves. So, if there is in the physical world, the cause of our problems are belief and image thinking, 4th and 5th, that's our ignorance, which is a model and activity. If the nature of wisdom is the 2nd and 3rd hypothesis, the model of pure mind, or ousia, knowing itself, its activity through the dialectic or understanding. Is there a model and activity for the first hypothesis? Because we only have the one hypothesis of the self. In the book, Socrates mentioned, hey, for this model of the second hypothesis to be the paradigm of reality, it has to have a cause. That's Chronos. But even that has a cause, Uranos. Meaning that maybe, just as we've added the 10th hypothesis to the Parmenides, maybe we can add an 11th and 12th, which breaks up the first hypothesis into its model and activity. Now we have the ox herding pictures, which describe the first 2 stages of the ox herding pictures are stages of ignorance, but 8 stages of our spiritual development into that second and beyond to the first. We've got one more ox herding picture from the Chinese Buddhism tradition yet to examine. Now that we've finished this book, maybe, and this book has given birth to that question, is there a 11th and 12th hypothesis? We can take that question back into our reading of those ox herding pictures and answer that question. Also, the author of this book, a master of the Logos, did his own version of the ox herding pictures. So maybe we can compare the two and see if there's a difference. And maybe having this hypothesis map of our development along with the ox herding map of what it feels like to go through that stages of development into the second and into the first, maybe having the two together will benefit us as dialecticians. And maybe you can include it in your sequel, because Socrates did mention earlier in the book this. Before our talk, says Jesus to Socrates, I encountered some Zen masters and they spoke about their use of the ox-herding pictures for this very thing. What is it? The very thing of to understand the journey of the soul, to experience not only heaven or the state of mind, but the other side. Go through that doorway to the self. In that journey, there are stages along the way. I would have liked all of the stages of enlightenment from a glimpse of the second of pure mind or reality into the final stages. I would like the whole thing fully worked out, says Socrates. Jesus says, well, actually, I talked to these Zen masters prior to our talk, and they said they used the ox-herding pictures for that very thing. Interesting. In each picture, there is a beautiful and profound statement of the state of mind. It's all about state of minds, haven't we been seeing? Of the seeker, what is encountered and how it functions. What is encountered? What is? State of mind and functioning. Is that the triad of self we've been talking about? So we can use all of our understanding of these models and maps and the archetype of the triad of self to go back to these ox-herding pictures and see if we can understand them to a deeper level because of our understanding of the logos and the reading of this book. Each one ends with a suggestion of a sequel, just as this book has ended with a suggestion of a sequel that you were to write, so that as a whole it represents the spiritual life of man. Socrates says, I had not learned of their map of the spiritual journey of the soul. I do think it's time that we meet with them to explore similar questions that we have entertained in our discussion. Jesus responds, now that would be interesting to learn about. I am sure I would enjoy learning about it. If you do go ahead, I believe you should call it the dialogue between Socrates and the Buddha. Another suggestion of a sequel. So whether or not you include that conversation in your sequel, or what seems to be the suggestion from the end of the book, your sequel is Socrates and Jesus, a dream analysis talk in heaven, including a midwife talk in heaven. Maybe you can do a triquel, make it a triad, and include after that your understanding of everything we have here, your understanding of the dialectic and the nature of human conflict between belief and understanding, how it's represented through history, through different ages, through different societies, through different cultures, through the difference between religion and true philosophy, the understanding of human problems, the demonstration of the movement from ignorance to wisdom in your sequel, needing dream analysis and midwifery, going through this map of development, interpretation, and counterattacks. And then with that understanding of the nature of the human condition from this book and its demonstration in your sequel, maybe then you could do the next one, Socrates and Jesus having a dialogue with the Buddha in heaven. Maybe Socrates can be watching and your newly enlightened Jesus character from your sequel can be the one discussing the ox-herding pictures with Buddha. It seems to me this book wants two sequels to make a triad of self. Maybe. What's that like? Now, next time, we're going to go into those ox-herding pictures, finally tackle the last one with our questions and our understanding in our back pocket. And then if we have time, we'll get into, and then after that, we'll do the author of this book, his translation of the ox-herding pictures with the logos, and see what difference that makes. Oh, I've been waiting for this for a long time. It's exciting. Good job in finishing the text. Thank you to everyone who's come along on this journey. I hope you've been having fun with lots of whimsy and childlike wonder.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder?
It's here.
I'm cute. Like, it's cutie pie.
M is a cutie
Fucking
pie.
Bitch, pussy ass fucker.
Oh my goodness.
I'm eating the testicles of this bull, and I'm eating it raw.
And I hope that you get more benefit out of this book than you do for eating raw bull testicles.
I'm going to get you. I'm going to find you. And I'm going to get you.
And if you don't, we will find you and get you. No, we won't. We won't do that.
Now we're getting into extreme Jordan Peterson levels of whimsy.
We are. So maybe we should call it for today. What's it been like? So that's the big question. What has this been like? Think about it. Post your comments below or in the Discord. I hope you've been having fun. And I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you for joining me on this journey. It's been fun for me. See you next time. Bye.